I will.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the town board meeting tonight. Please rise, and we'll say the pledge together. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Councilmember Totino?
Present.
Supervisor Albrook?
Here.
Councilmember Foreman?
Here.
Councilmember Rye?
Here.
Make a motion to accept the agenda as written.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Acceptance of minutes, town board regular meeting, December 20th, 2023. Presented as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next up is the public hearing for the Glenham and Blodgett Water District consolidation. I'll make a motion to open up the public hearing. Can I have a second?
Second.
Anybody from the public like to speak about the combining of the Blodgett and Glenham water
So we need
districts?
to vote to open it.
I'll get to make a vote to open it. Presented as motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Vote. Everybody's an aye?
Aye.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
So this should be tabled to the,
We're not done
No,
yet. We're not done
the
yet.
public hearing should be open. You should hear anybody who wishes to speak.
Okay.
It should be continued until the next meeting.
okay.
Okay. Anybody want to speak? Okay. I'll make a motion to table it to this table, keep the public hearing open till the next town board meeting, which is, Cooper, when's the next board meeting?
It's going to be February 7th.
February 7th, presented as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We don't have any new employees.
Thank you.
We have presentation.
Yeah,
We do?
Yeah.
Oh, I
From
apologize.
the rec center.
Come on.
Don't diss the rec.
Okay. You're right there, Brian.
Hello, my name is Celia Perez, and I'm currently a senior at John Jay High School.
Okay.
I applied to be a basketball counselor because me and my father used to play basketball when I was a little girl, and I believe it is important for girls to see other girls playing basketball or at least learning about it. I am looking forward to this position because I find such joy in working with little kids, and I hope I could potentially aid them and help them a little bit more. And thank you for listening.
That's it?
Yeah.
Where do you live?
Hopewell Junction,
Okay.
Presidential Way.
Very
Yeah.
nice. Any questions?
What high school do you go to?
John Jay.
You do? What grade?
John Jay High School, I'm a senior.
You're a senior, okay. My son graduated years ago, so good for you. I heard good things about you, so good for you.
Okay, welcome to Fishkill.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mom. Any other employees? That's it, okay. So next up is presentations. We'll have the first one by Mr. Mike Trempo of Camo Pollution Control. Floor is yours, sir.
I got assignments for you.
It's an assignment.
It's not homework, is it?
Thank you.
Kind of, thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
So, here to talk about the Brinkerhoff water supply. As you mostly all know, it was built in the 60s, so that means it's a little younger than me, but not by much. There's 1,100 service connections. That doesn't include Elmcrest, Deer Crossing, Avionis, the shopping, the commercial plaza, the Wingate Nursing Home, which is now the DeConnick Nursing Home, the two big Summit Park buildings, or three big Summit Park buildings. So despite, when Seymour Arkway built it in the 60s, it was intended to be a subdivision water supply. Now it's a cross-section of dentists, doctors, hairdressers, nursing homes, a school, and many, many residents. So when Seymour built it, he put the wells, and we've talked about this a number of times over the years, this item called the cow pass, but he put his wells and water plants on what I will say is the east side of the railroad tracks. There by Doug Phillips Park, the dog park, that's where the water plant is. He put his population centers on the other side, on the west side of Route 82, up by where the Brinkerhoff School is, the water gets under 82 and then splits off and feeds the population centers. He put, to get the water from, we'll call it Doug Phillips Park, over there, he put 2 10-inch water mains to use as transmission lines. And if you look on the back of my handout, I retrofit his map to show this. So I think if you take a look at that, you can see where the tank is, and you can see the 2 10-inch lines crossing over the railroad tracks under 82 and coming up over on Wedgewood Line. The reason we call that narrow tunnel under Route 82 the Cow Pass is because years ago, when there were no homes, that's how the farmer got the cows from one side of Route 82 to the other. In that narrow cow pass, he's got 2 10-inch water mains and a 10-inch sewer main. So there's literally no room in there. Today's standards, you put every pipe 10 foot apart. So, and even though I made some notes on his map that we try to use, clearly shows the 2 lines side by side heading up and up the Wedgewood. It's always been a very big concern, and we've talked to the town about this for a number of times, that if that line breaks, either one of those lines break, there's no water to the population centers. That's the only way to get water to the distribution system I described earlier. So on, I would say December 22nd, we noticed water running from the water mains thereabouts by the Cow Pass. So we contacted the town, the health department. The water was running pretty steady, but nothing we felt we needed to fix before Christmas, and because we knew it was going to be a major project. So we built a road in, and if you look at some of these pictures, you can see the first picture is the road we had to build. Probably we had to cut down a numerous amount of trees, bring in stone, and build a road into where the pipe was so we could work on it when we decided to fix it. Additionally, before we fixed the line, we had to notify the health department. We notified the town, went on the website. Ozzy had electric signs put out throughout the area to let people know. We picked December 27th to do the excavation because we knew the school would be out. I personally notified the nursing home, the dentists, the doctors. The school was already out. The most important person to notify is the hairdresser, because it's New Year's and she needs water to get everybody's hair done. So it was a big project. We estimated the water would be off 7 hours, and we started the work on December 27th. The 2 water mains were nearly 12 foot in the line, 12 foot deep. If you look at the picture after the road, you can see the men down in the hole working and how deep they are. 12 foot deep hole is a big hole to work on. We had an excavator, we had a hydrovac, we had a skid steer, and shoring boxes and numerous men. When we actually got down to the water main, it was very concerning what we found, where we had always anticipated the water mains being side by side. If you look at picture 4, you can see the 2 water mains. I labeled them water main A and water main B. Instead of being apart from each other, they were directly on top of each other, about 1.5 inches apart. So there was absolutely, the lower main, water main B, was leaking. And because the water, in those days, the type of pipe they use is transite. That's a fancy word for asbestos cement. They have big collars that connect the 2 pipes when you join them together. Because the proximity was so close, they didn't have enough room in this particular location to use 2 collars, so they put a repair clamp there. And So as you can see, the lower, well, you can't really see from this picture, but the lower pipe was leaking. There was no room to get to the lower pipe to fix it, so we had to cut the upper pipe out of the way and replace and fix the lower pipe and then reestablish the upper pipe. The entire time since about 9 o'clock in the morning, the residents of Brinkerhoff and the distribution system I described were out of water. So probably approximately 4 o'clock, we got both mains repaired and we began repressurizing the system. The type, I'm going to just digress for a minute, the type of valves they used in this water system, because of the age of the water system, were a different style of valves than they use now. They were there was a lot of moving parts. They called them double disc valves. Due to their age, the way they were built, and the water, the valves don't work in Brinkerhoff. So when you have a problem, the whole system is drained out. So when we got the water, they're both mains fixed. We repressurized. It took 2.5, 3 hours for the water to come back. Due to the amount of time that the system was out of pressure, the regulations call for you to have a boil water notice. And that's as a precaution, because when you suck all the water out, who knows what you can bring into the water mains. So we had the notice on, we collected the required samples, it all came back satisfactory, and on December 29th, we lifted the boil water notice. All the notifications were done through the electric sign and the town website and the county health department, which was an integral part of helping us get through this. I should note, prior to while we were waiting to dig it up, we did increase our chlorine levels in our water, so to try to help maintain disinfected water. So the leak is now fixed. This hole is backfilled, a lot of yards of material. But I got to tell you, I've been concerned about the bypass for the last the cow pass for the last 35 or 40 years. But I think seeing what I see now, we're sitting on a bit of a powder keg here. That break was about, I'd say 90 feet, 70 to 90 feet from 82. If that water main was to break now under 82, there's no way I can get to it. There's no way I can pull one out with them sitting on top of each other and try to fix it. You'd be looking at not hours of outages, but days. There's no way I can truck enough water to feed those people. It would be a disaster. And I am very uncomfortable saying that, oh, it'll be okay, nothing will happen. Everything's 60 years old. My experience is with water systems that old and even older, that you maintain a steady pressure on them, and when you take the pressure off, like we did December 27th, the pipes move ever so little bit. And then when you repressurize them, when they come back, they're more prone to failing than they were before you took the pressure off. So I've looked at a plan that I know will be, that can help us alleviate this potential disaster. We can go up on where the water mains come through the cow pass and through the schoolyard. We can put valves in on Wedgwood. And if you go back to your plan, the plan I gave you there, you can see up on Wedgwood where I call for a line stop and a valve. And the plan for that would be, instead of, we can't shut the water, because to put a new valve in is a lengthy process. To do it, today, you'd have to drain the system completely out. So they make a technology called a line stop. You have a specialized firm that comes in, takes 2 areas, puts a temporary stop in the pipes, and then we dig down, we cut in a new valve. If we put one of those, as I show here, we've looked at the areas, we can do it. You would then have a valve on each one of those 10-inch mains. So if one of them failed under the road, I could isolate that main, and use the other main to supply the water system and the rest of the customers. Keep in mind, it's a 60-year-old system. It all sounds good, me laying it out like that, but that conceivably, it would work. And the reason there's two pipes there is for redundancy. Unfortunately, when he went to put them in, he put them so close and his valves failed, so there is no redundancy unless we put these valves in. On each, there's two valves down at the tank that work, that I've got working, and then there's two valves up there, and I could isolate one of the lines going through the cow pass. The only downside of that project is Elmcrest is now hooked in before the cow pass, and of the two mains that go over, Mountain View Apartments is hooked into one, Elmcrest is hooked into one, and the school is hooked into one. I'm gonna be perfectly and painfully honest with you, I don't know which main that they're hooked into. I do know Mountain View is hooked in the one on the left, but when they come together like this, I don't know what happens when they spread apart. But it's a lot easier for me and my firm to provide a temporary water connection for Mountain View or Elmcrest or the school than it is for the 1,100 customers that I previously discussed. And in the meantime, we can help figure out which customers are where, so we would have a better plan when that takes place. I gotta tell you, I think my strong recommendation on this, the line stop appurtenances are 2 weeks out, that I would get started on this right away.
You consider this an emergency?
I consider it an emergency because I don't want to be here with 1,500 people out of water, including a school and a nursing home and everything, and then there's really no answers.
Okay.
Sounds pretty fragile.
Yeah, and you know, it's an old system. I'll do the best I can with it, you know, but I would like to get started on it. I mean, this is something, to be honest, and I want to talk about the interconnection with Merritt, because that's all going on, so I want to keep you up to date on that. But
So Mr. Gaba, if you consider this an emergency, do we have to go out to bid or any of this other stuff, or can we
You'd
just do
have to
this?
declare a state of emergency in order to,
Who would do that? Town board?
you would.
Do I need a town board resolution?
No, as a supervisor, you can
So you
do
can
that
prepare that
on
for
your
me?
own. But this is going to be kind of pricey, isn't it?
Well, between the leak, I mean, the leak we already fixed was 60 around, I haven't got all the numbers on it, or 60 or 70. Ozzy, you know, and some of that would be, you know, I've built into my contract, but you're looking at 110 for everything, 115 for everything.
So if we went out for bid, we might be able to bring it in around that. If you just award it, I don't know.
You know what, I'm just gonna be painfully honest with you, I wouldn't bid it. I would do this work, you would have an outside contractor. If you went out to bid, you'd have an engineering firm draw up specs, and, you know, I don't know what the outcome with that would be.
It's all pretty time consuming to go.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I would get a hold of the line stop specialist I use. I'd have them order the parts, and I would hopefully be able to tell you within 2.5 weeks, we'd be scheduled to have the valves in and prevent a disaster.
Board members, are you okay with putting us on?
I think this is pretty critical.
I agree. You agree, John? Mm-hmm. So, do I have to wait till the February 7th board meeting to do this for the money, or should I just?
No, what you can do is, I'll prepare a declaration of state of emergency. You'll have to file it with the county, but it'll take effect as soon as you sign it. And then, once you've declared a state of emergency, in regard to the state of emergency, you can issue executive orders, which have the effect of a town board resolution. I would think you'd want the town board to ratify whatever determination you make.
That's why
in
I'm
terms
asking them
of
right
a-
now.
Well, and if these gentlemen are okay with that,
Well,
that makes it that much better, but,
Yeah, you need to get it done.
Okay.
and then you would have an agreement with KMO to get this done.
Based on, I know every one of these gentlemen, I would just tomorrow call Farley Valve and order the parts and get started and plan it and get it done.
Just let me talk to the controller first.
Pardon me?
Tomorrow. Let me talk to the controller first.
Yep.
And make sure we got
Sure.
the money in the bank to do this.
Yeah, that was my question. Who ultimately pays it? The people in the district?
Yes.
Or is this the
If
town?
it's a district work, then it would be the people in the district who would.
So we
pay
gotta
the
make sure that
cost
there's
of
enough
this.
money in the account, right?
Yeah.
Well, you could bond it if you had
They're
to.
not bonding it.
Just saying it's an alternative.
So, is there any questions about this? I mean, what we're gonna do, everybody kind of understands what we're doing here?
So this district has basically three problems. Right now, prior to this happening last month, we had a problem with health department concerns. Can you elaborate those things?
Sure I can, and I wanted to do this first, because I think this is the most important one. So the water supply for years and years and years hasn't had a storage tank. When a lot of the development started and the water supply application was issued, one of the mandates from the DEC, and when I say years and years and years, I mean over 20 years, over 25 years. One of the DEC mandates for the water supply application is that we put a storage in. It was very controversial. The residents didn't want a storage. The health department did, and it just was something that never happened for whatever the reasons. A storage tank for a district this size gives you a backup water supply for a fire, a serious water main break, a catastrophic pump failure. Usually storage tanks give you a day's storage without pumping water out of the ground. If we had an environmental spill by our well field, you would use the storage tank while you shut your wells off and did something else with the water. So when the Merritt and Snook subdivision came into toll, built over there, there was an anticipation of town-wide water using the Snook wells. They put a 1 million gallon tank up on the mountain, and due to chloride conditions in the wells and the town residents voted out of town-wide water, you have a 1 million gallon storage tank over there that water supply uses a little over 140,000 gallons per day. So there's ample storage. The Brinkerhoff water supply uses 250,000 gallons a day. So there's ample storage. So there has been numerous engineering studies to tie the two systems together. That is satisfying to the health department. The health department has approved that plan. And if you were to put the two, when you connect the two systems, you will lift the health department mandates off the district, which is lack of storage and lack of ample well supply. And you would then have the plan is to run a line under the Fishkill Creek, bring it up by the convenient mart, which is on Brinkerhoff water, and then you would connect those two water supplies with a specialized valve that would sense the pressure in Brinkerhoff, and if it dropped below a certain poundage or a certain amount, the valve would automatically open and flow water over to Brinkerhoff, and that would allow you to utilize their storage in a case of an emergency. So that is the project that has been approved by the health department, and I believe the town is going forward to finish that job, go out to bid, or however you guys go out to bid.
Yeah, the town board already approved the bidding process. We just finally, after 4 years, we finally got this done with their approvals. And that was since the health department had us under their watch, that was our #1 priority with this district. The second plan, what I was planning to do was what was called your loop system there.
Right.
Coming from the new firehouse, and explain that why this could have been redundant.
So the interconnection with Merritt is a great interconnection. Anytime you can marry two water systems, and if one fails, the other one can help you out, it's a good thing. It's a very good process. The only downside of that is when the water comes in at the convenient mart, the only way it gets to the population centers in Brinkerhoff is through the cow pass. So part of the loop we're looking at is the firehouse, which is being constructed on the south side of Route 52, has going to run an 8-inch water main from the shopping plaza whatever that job lot is, and they're going to run a water main out of that plaza, 8-inch, and connect to the firehouse. Additionally, the town has had a water main designed to go from the firehouse to the convenient mart down the south side of Route 52. So that alleviates the cow pass. So it's only an 8-inch line, which is fine, but it will certainly provide water around the cow pass. So if indeed we had a scenario where one of the mains failed under the road and we were running on one main, if that, when the day comes, you put that in, then you will have two sources of water, one around the cow pass and one through the cow pass.
And we did the plans with that already. We already have those,
I think the health department has approved those plans.
and we have that ready too.
Right now, the connection to the firehouse, I think, is snagged a little
Yeah.
bit with the easements coming out of the shopping plaza, but I'm sure they're hoping to be done with that by at least a line to the firehouse by the summer of this year.
So in general, the plan was to do the interconnection, the loop system, and then worry about this cow pass.
Right.
But now, since the cow pass has these problems, we need to move that ahead of the loop.
I really believe you do.
You guys get that?
Got it. This is the Merritt tank. You and I drove up there and
Yes.
looked at it, and you explained this whole connection, and it was approved. How is that funded, and when is that getting started?
So we've allocated about, the previous project was about 5.6 million. We scrapped that down to the bare minimum. Hopefully, it's around 1.2 million. That's what we have in the ARPA funds.
Right.
So if it comes out at 1.2, which we think or hope, it'll be no cost to taxpayer.
Right.
So, and then if we go forward to find out this cow pass thing and the connection to the loop, then we're going to reevaluate how much it would cost to do those things. So the loop would be about 400,000? Was that the number?
Yeah, I believe that was it. That was 2 years ago now. I don't know if there's up.
Yeah, so you're talking a little over 100 for this emergency repair.
Right.
And then the loop system, which has already been approved by by the Board of Health, we have that in place. And then the only thing we would have to do is prepare in the future for new lines going underneath 82.
That's all. It's a lot. That's good.
It's a lot. This is why it's important to make sure when the developers come to the town of Fishkill, they do the right thing. This would never pass code today.
Yeah.
2 years ago, you came in with a sewer pipe that was 100 grand. That was not the proper spec.
Right.
These are problems that we deal with, that the
Right.
developers come in, do what they want.
Well, that was
they
60
leave.
years ago, too.
Well,
There's no,
every year it's something new. We had a $10 valve. What was that on 9D where it was a nut? What was it? A bolt that broke?
Yeah.
Well, how much was that bolt? 20 bucks?
Bolt itself is it's probably, I gotta watch it now, because I'm an old guy. Probably
Yeah.
today, it's $1.50 bolt.
So a simple bolt breaks, and that screwed up that district for 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
So it's
Flooded
stuff.
the road, and they had to rebuild the road.
How
and
to rebuild the
everything.
road, so this is why it's important to make sure when the developers come to the town of Fishkill, they just don't do it their bare minimum and leave, and then 5, 10, 20, 60 years later, we get stuck with these big costs.
Well, hopefully those days are certainly over.
They're certainly over, absolutely.
You know.
Anything else, Mr. Trumper?
That's all I have. Does anyone have anything else?
John does?
So, Mike, thank you for being here tonight. I know you deal with a lot of municipalities. Do any of those municipalities get grant writers to help? I know this is kind of a semi-emergency issue, so we got to deal with it. But down the road, we're looking at bigger projects and other projects. Is there money out there to help?
They certainly have a list, and you replaced all the pipes in Beacon Hills on a grant.
Yep.
So there is grant money. I would help whatever grant writer you had, provide the information, but I am not a grant writer, but.
No, I know you're not,
Yeah,
but
there's it's a thing that municipalities do. I mean, to be very honest with you, it's almost impossible in my humble opinion, for municipalities to fund some of these projects that are required for clean water and proper sewer disposal without federal funding or state funding or wherever they get the money from. Because doing it on the backs of the residents is difficult.
And remember, the governor wants to add affordable housing to her budget, and what they're going to do is, in our proposals for grants, they're going to expect more high-density housing, more affordable housing in return for the grants. So we're not going to get nothing for free.
And that was not to reminisce or make you nuts, but when they first started the Clean Water Act, there's a lot of sewer plants in Hudson Valley that was built on 88 cents on a dollar. Towns put up $1 and the federal government gave them 88 cents.
And that was, a matter of fact, that was in the late 60s and early 70s. Fishkill, Beacon, East Fishkill, Wappingers was part of a program where the federal government was going to pay that 90% of the, to make the whole area sewer, district sewer. And then the town of Fishkill said no, and it didn't happen. So 50 years later, now we're dealing with the problems that could have been taken care of 50 years ago.
It's a valid point, and, I don't want to be just the attorney's already asked if I had good news. But, when it comes to drinking water, I mean, this PFO, that's something that's coming down the pike. So, I mean, I don't, in Wappingers, they got hit sideways by a well that was PFO, and to treat it is not $100,000. It's a lot of money. So, something that water and sewer, you should always have your eyes peeled for whatever grants you can get.
Brian, you have any questions for Mr. Trapper?
Not right now, but I know, it's just amazing, this whole, everything that's just a hopscotch, that was pieced together for years.
And I'm fortunate enough to be able to work in a lot of different municipalities, and all of them have, you're not alone.
It's crazy.
Okay,
So just to understand this, I guess I have one question. This line stop that we're talking about, right?
Right.
And 2 of them?
You need 2 per valve, because you got to stop the water from coming both ways. Just like in your house, when you go to work on your toilet, you got to shut the water off to your toilet. So you got to shut the water off
at the source and another.
At a source and everything from coming back down.
So, but you're talking about 2 different locations.
2 different locations.
Right.
Because there's 2 different transmission lines.
Right. So this issue was, we're dealing with 60-year-old pipe, right?
Right.
So your assessment on this pipe is that, this is to help now potentially stave off an issue, but we still could have a time bomb under here somewhere.
Absolutely, and that's what I'm worried about. When I saw, to be honest with you, we were prepared when we thought the pipes were side by side. I knew they weren't as far apart as the plans showed, but I was prepared when I shut the whole system down that day to put a couple of valves in. If I could, then I would at least have 2 working valves at the location of the break.
Right.
But you can't put them in when the water mains are like this, because the bottom valve would stick up through the top water main. So that, I gotta tell you, there's, for good or for bad, I see a lot over the years and all the things that, when I saw them so close to each other, on top of each other, touching. I mean, if you look at the one diagram, you can see the wooden wedge they put in that they were worried about when they cut the top pipe, that it was gonna fall down on the bottom pipe. When I saw that, it was a real, Ozzy was there, he saw it, and it's a real concern.
Yeah, I can see that.
How many people we got in this district, this old Brickerhoff combined?
There's 1,100 connections, I believe, but Elm Crest is 1 connection, and Deer
that's about
Crossing
200.
is a connection.
That's about 50.
And Avionis is a connection.
50.
Summit Park is a connection. And when you go into Summit Park buildings today, there are doctor's offices, dentists, and the Arkway Plaza has businesses in there, and you have a school and a nursing home.
Right.
All right, so,
No tension here.
No.
All the more reason to start, I think, getting serious about looking at a grant writer, see what we can do here to find this money, because this could be a major thing going forward, but we can discuss that another time.
yeah, absolutely.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Trapper.
all right, thank you.
And just don't do anything until I talk to the controller tomorrow.
All of you, if you ever have any questions on any water, sewer, feel free to call me anytime. I do.
Answer the
always-
call at nighttime.
What?
You will answer the call at night.
I've had the pleasure of speaking to you multiple times, and you are responsive, and that's important.
Yeah, my cell phone, I don't always answer it right away, but I will call you back. All right? Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. All right, we have one more presentation today, our 2023 Historian Annual Report. Here's our historian, Arnold Restivo. Good evening, sir.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Yeah, so being responsible and presenting the long and complex history of the town of Fishkill, can be a daunting task. As everyone probably knows, public history is a field complicated by public memory, emotional thoughts, and compelling group aims. But telling our town's history makes my work thrilling and satisfying and time-sensitive and challenging. Over the last year, I've had a couple of accomplishments that helped put us on the map, and the first one being in the beginning of the year, Councilman Brian Ryan and myself had met with the Wappinger School District, Central School District Administration, to discuss integrating our local history into the school's curriculum. And what we feel that Councilman Ryan and myself, we feel our support with the students in understanding that their locality and the people like them are linked to national and global history. Also in 2003, I organized the celebration of the Marquis de Lafayette, which was held at the monument that was dedicated in his honor back in 1898 in the Roundabout Rural Cemetery. The event, which was held on August 27th, was 234 years from when the French National Assembly adopted the Marquis de Lafayette's Declaration of the Rights of Man and the Citizen, which is effectively their Bill of Rights. They did that in 1789. And of course, the celebration was held literally steps away from the Brinkerhoff Inn, which is where he recuperated, the Lafayette recuperated from an illness in a second floor bedroom back in 1778. The Marquis Lafayette, he has a special place for the town residents. His contribution to the American Revolution really became a prelude to the massive French support that we received during the Revolutionary War. His influence on some of our patriots like Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton are still felt today through our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. Our keynote speaker for the event, Deputy Consul General Laban, spoke on Lafayette's contributions to both the American and French revolutions. This event really would not have been successful if it was not for the partnership that we had with Roundabout Rural Cemetery, the Mozinga chapter, the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution, and the general gifts from Carmine Estevan and Easterview Landscaping for improving the monuments landscaping and in and around the cemetery. After the celebration, we had a get-together for the dignitaries that attended the event, and Bob Chihuly and the Brinkerhoff Inn generously held a luncheon for the attending dignitaries. And I do have to say that without their generous gifts, Carmine Estevan and Bob Chihuly, it would not be a success.
May I add a caveat to that?
What's that?
May I add a caveat? Greg Totino played taps, and that was a highlight, too.
Oh, yes.
And I rather famously did not speak French.
No. We had Mr. Beecher's mom there.
Yes.
But this year proves to be even more exciting. All right. So we have the ability to partner with the American Friends of Lafayette with their bicentennial tour, because it was back in 1824 that Lafayette went around to 25 different states in the United States. He was here in Fishkill on September 19th in 1824. And so we have the ability really to partner with them to do a celebration, which I'm working with the town board and putting together something. What they're doing, the American Friends of Lafayette, is following his Guest of the Nation tour that he did between 1824 and 1825. Basically, on the 19th of this year, the bicentennial tour is really a great opportunity for us, because we're going to have out-of-town
tourists that are going to come. They're estimating between 50 to 75. Some will travel on their own, others in buses. So it's really going to give us an opportunity to really highlight a lot of the locations where Lafayette frequented or was at, like our historic site right in Mount Julian. Am I pronouncing that correctly? I think
Julian.
I always mispronounce that. Julian, you got the Brinkerhoff Inn, you have a couple of variety of sites. So this would be a real great opportunity for us to showcase our historic sites here with our local residents and people coming out of town. And so promoting our history has really made a countless individuals whose contribution is ongoing with the story of our community. If it was not for the community support, the town board, Ozzie, Greg, Brian, John, local businesses and individuals, I would not be as successful in illuminating the present by celebrating our past.
Good job, Arnold.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
One question, Arnold. You're running away. Just one quick question.
Sure.
The American Friends of Lafayette, I mean, how big of an organization is this? Of course, I'm ignorant of them. I haven't heard of them. So are they a huge national kind of organization, or?
I know they have 900 members. They're doing this tour in 25 states over a 2-year period because he was here till 1824. But they are doing a lot of promotion for it, and they are offering to promote whatever we choose to do here in the town that day.
Is the French consulate involved, in helping with promoting this across the country and in this area? I mean, do we know that, or is that something maybe to find out? We can talk about that offline.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was a couple of things. Some people have made different suggestions, but I'm still trying to put it all together.
Sure.
So I have a more specific plan to present probably in February.
Got it. Good job, buddy.
Thank you, sir. Presentations are done. Then next up is privilege of the floor for general town items. Any person here wishes to speak about anything relating to the town of Fishkill has the opportunity to speak now. Okay. Next up is discussion, number 1, discussion of amending peddling soliciting permit application to stream. What's that?
Liaison
reports.
Oh, I apologize. Liaison reports. Brian, what do you got?
Well, first of all, I want to thank Julie Spann at Blodgett Library for organizing the recognition of our local police department, village, and town at the Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, a national day, which I wasn't aware of until I got the notice for this thing. But it was really a cold, wet night, but a lot of people came out and participated and showed appreciation to our police, and I was very pleased to be there, and I know John was there as well. I have gone by highway since Carmine has been taken over, and he has quite an extensive report that he submitted. I know you all have read it because it was sent to everyone. I think that my takeaway tonight, without reading this lengthy thing, I asked for bullet points, but I got chapter and verse, but that's okay. I know he has a Facebook page now, which is great. That's going to be, I'm sure, posting pertinent information. I know that he's really documenting any concerns when people call in and report. They're tracking the resident, the issue, and completion of whatever issue there. It's very professional, well taken care of. I do know that he's gutted the offices and he's on his way to redoing them. I do know, I sense, just of course, his fingerprint on the entire organization, and I think what the number of things is, we know we had a number of storms and we had 10.3 inches the other day, and the trucks were out there, and he had 20 trucks ready to roll, and they have been, as Glenn certainly had them in the past, the continuation of that great service is certainly underway. but he is looking forward soon to launch Name a Truck contest. And I think that's a cute thing. The Highway Department will be asking for the town residents' help in naming a new dump truck. And this will be the first of many contests to name the new trucks as they're added to the Highway Department fleet. And I think his purpose in that, of course, is just more town involvement. He'll have a number of other things that he'll be announcing going forward. And I just am excited for our town and the Highway Department and the changes that are coming. I have had a good meeting with Jason Mietta at Rec, and he and I are talking about a number of things. We'll talk about this a little later. I think some involvement, some interesting involvement that I'm kind of thinking about for seniors, but we'll roll that out at another different time. I did speak with the newly elected supervisor Cavassini in town of Wappinger, and he's invited me to their board meeting in February, and I'll introduce myself and see how, and liaison with them and see how we can potentially work together jointly going forward, and that's it.
Thank you, Brian. John?
Okay, as Councilman Rice stated, I also attended the law enforcement appreciation event. Friday on January 5th, I attended the Beacon High School Hall of Fame dinner at St. Rocco's. A whole bunch of athletes were inducted to the Hall of Fame. And just over the last couple of weeks, I've had meetings with the Fishkill historian, the Fishkill police chief, our HR director, town clerk, and controller. That's all.
Thanks, John. Greg?
On January 5th, I attended the swearing-in ceremony for my friend and, as Councilman Rye mentioned, Wappinger Supervisor Joe Cavassini. It was good to see him take the oath of office. I'm sure that we will have ample opportunity to continue to build a very good partnership that we enjoy with Wappinger on a number of issues. And he spoke to me about a few initiatives that he'd like to bring to the table sometime this year that we can get to start with that I think are very promising. And I leave that to his timeline to introduce them to us, but I think there's some exciting opportunities.
Come to the meeting with me.
I would be happy to do so.
Let's go together.
Absolutely. I did have a chance to speak with our new highway superintendent after the snow this past week to congratulate him on a successful job managing his first snowfall. I also spoke with him today after the snow event yesterday. Again, our roads seem to be in very good shape, and I know that will continue to be the case. And I will have one item related to the Highway Department for new and old business later on for our next town board meeting to consider.
Okay. I just have a comment. Our former historian, I think, turned 92 this week. So I just want to say...
98
98?
on yesterday.
Yeah.
So our former historian, Willa Skinner, turned 98 yesterday. Happy birthday, Willa. That's all I have. Next up is discussion of amending the peddling soliciting permit application to streamline the process. Mr. Gabbard, do we have any update on that?
I reviewed the peddling and soliciting permit application, and I reviewed the peddling and soliciting provisions in the town code. And I have to tell you, although it does span 12 pages, a lot of it is because of the formatting involved. It really, in my opinion, doesn't require a lot of information that isn't, if not necessary, then at least very helpful in processing these peddling applications. The one thing that I did flag in terms of a section which may not be required, there's a provision that says name all of the municipalities in which the applicant has been a vendor on the preceding 6 months. And I get it. The idea behind that is if there has been problems in the last 6 months with this person in other municipalities, you might want to reach out and find out if that's the case. I don't know how often that actually happens, though, in terms of these applications being processed. So if you wanted to cut that section out, I think that would be about my only recommendation. Other than that, I mean, it really isn't that long to fill out. The hold harmless is about as short as it could possibly be. There's a checklist just to show that you have everything that's necessary, but it's a checklist. You know, it does take up an entire page. The end of it is just the information that needs to be provided in terms of mobile food preparation, vehicle requirements, insurance requirements, and that's it. There's a section additional notes, but I mean, if they don't want to fill in additional notes, they don't fill in additional notes.
Is this something that an average citizen can fill out?
Oh, yes.
So it's not a big deal?
Yeah, and if they had questions, I'm sure that the clerk's office would help them in terms of, you know, if you have an issue with this, isn't that the case? Yeah.
You guys satisfied with it?
If the board feels otherwise, of course, you're entitled to change the form however you like, but legally reviewing it, I don't see that much that could be done. It's mostly formatting that accounts for the size of it.
So you could reformat it to be 6 pages?
Oh, sure. You could
How
make
many
it.
how many
quite
pages is it
small.
right now?
It's 12 altogether, start to finish.
Instructions.
Yes, exactly.
It's not what they're filling out.
No, I've looked through it. It's 12 pages or 11, 12 pages.
I've never had any problems.
All right, you good?
The only complaint
Yeah.
is that people just don't want to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's no, it's true.
Close it out, Becky.
Yeah.
Close it out. It's done.
Good.
I'm not trying to be, rude, it's just, seriously, people just don't want to do what they legally have to do.
Okay, next up is discussion of the ward system. I go back and forth on this. There's 3 properties that I'm concerned about: Downstate, Texaco, the old Holiday Inn on Route 9. I think if one organization comes in, they can effectively run the town of Fishkill out of one section. It broke the town into a ward system. That couldn't happen, and I would like to consider adding 2 town board seats for a total from 4 to 6. So, your thoughts?
I mean, you brought it up before, and I certainly have thought about it, and I just think that, we should move slowly, but potentially something to look at down the road, but just not right now.
Okay.
It's not my, I don't feel the heat, but I know what you're talking about, especially over, with the governor's new proposal, and they're trying to decommission some more prisons, so you know what they're going to do with those around the state.
And if we put in for grants for water applications, there's going to be contingencies.
In going back and forth with our assembly member about that proposal, and there is concern about 300, home, I mean, there's nothing on the table now, but, where there's smoke, maybe there's fire, and I'm very concerned about that. And I expressed to him, so tell me what affordable housing is when we've got to increase everybody's taxes for a new fire district. We got to create one for that area. We got to expand our police department for that area. That taxes are going to be going up. God knows what other, impacts we're going to have that's going to cost money. So, I mean, this is something, as well as the population and how it affects the town, there's no doubt about it, politically.
John?
I'm neutral about it. I'll do a little more investigation.
Greg?
Strongly in favor. I think especially as we're looking to a future where we're going to see our local elections potentially shifted into even years, which would align with presidential and congressional and gubernatorial races. If we want to maintain the integrity of local elections and not allow our local races to be overshadowed by races further up the ballot, I think it's particularly beneficial to residents to be voting for a candidate on the town board who lives in their own neighborhood, who they might be able to know and recognize. So perhaps having wards, whether we have 2 wards, 4 wards, whatever would be agreeable, in addition to perhaps a couple of at-large seats like we have currently. I'm certainly open to having a conversation. I think that a ward system in some capacity would be beneficial.
I think no matter what we do, we would certainly want to be putting it on a referendum, so the voters in Fishkill.
Mandatory referendum.
It's a requirement?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
It's got local laws, and the local laws would be subject to mandatory referendum.
So Mr. Gabbard, one of the questions, I don't like these 2-year terms that some municipalities have. Could we went to 6 wards, could they all be 4-year terms?
I don't see why not.
Because other towns that have ward systems are 2-year terms, that's why I'm
I don't
asking the
think it's
question.
required. I think you can have 2 or 4.
Okay, so we went to.
But the elections are definitely going to even years. That's
Yes.
going to happen.
Yes.
That's the state's already signed off on it. It's just a matter of working it in. I think I mentioned before, having 1-year special elections.
Well, it depends if you have a 2-year term, it'll be a 1-year, if you have a 4-year term, it'll be a 3-year.
It'd still be a 4-year, but there'd be a 1-year election.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know
It's not gonna be a 1-year.
that going to even year elections will affect the town inasmuch as a huge development coming in. And I certainly, you know, the only reason why I would want to look at this further is to keep the flavor of the town and to make sure that we do have issues that are paramount to us, not affected by national elections or anything else, that we certainly are concentrated here. The downside to the ward system is, from what I do here, is it does pit one ward against another ward, whereas now we are all town-wide, and we're all working town-wide together jointly. Yes, we do have differences, but we are working jointly on these issues all across the town. If we get into a ward system, and I understand this from towns who have ward systems, then they're really fighting for a piece of the pie, and it gets a little bit more bitter, and I'm just concerned about that, but that's something we can discuss again later.
Certainly. I think the counterpoint to that, which I'm just going to bring up for the sake of it being heard for consideration, is that without a ward system, it can lead residents in certain areas of the town to feel a little disenfranchised. Not in terms of being access to voting, but in terms of their voting making much of a difference. For instance, if we look at the makeup of the town board right now, there's not a single member sitting on this board who lives east of Route 9. There's a lot of people who live in the town of Fishkill who live east of Route 9. And I'm sure that a lot of them would like to have a representative on this board who is familiar with their neighborhood, who lives in that neighborhood, who will bring their commitment to that area where they live to the discussion.
Someone should come forth now and run. I mean, who's preventing them from
It's
running?
not easy, guys, it's not easy to run for office, we all know that. It's a basic listening tour in the town of Fishkill takes you 7 months to hit every door in the town of Fishkill. You have 6 wards, it could take a candidate a month, and that person would have the ability to have more contact with his residents, find out what's going on, and it'd be better representation. Let's face it, guys, there's no way, it's very difficult to canvass this entire town of Fishkill. A person off the street just can't do it. We know that. A ward system would make it palatable, and plus you gotta remember, we have term limits now, so they're there for 8 years, you're always gonna have a fresh face every 8 years in these wards. Listen, I'm worried about somebody coming in, putting up 1,000 homes and running the town. They could, ward system, they could control the ward and they control the supervisor, but not the other 5 seats.
I do.
That's my concern.
I do appreciate that 100%, you know.
Worthy of further discussion.
So how do we want to discuss it any further? Have Mr. Gabel look into it, what?
I'd certainly like to hear Mr. Gabba's opinion, if he could put together an overview of what the ward system would look like for the town, you know, based on X number of wards, X number of seats, et cetera. If we could just look eyes on that at the logistics of what it would be. I mean, I know that might take a little while, but I think we'd benefit
You're
from...
talking about adding number of,
I would like to add 2 seats for a total of 6, and make sure we could do 4-year terms. If it's not
Yes.
4-year terms, I don't want to do it then.
Understood. All right, I'll look into it.
Yeah, every 2 years would be okay.
It's too crazy. It's too crazy. Thank you, gentlemen. So, table to June. June, okay?
Yeah.
June. Next up is discussion of maternity leave. Brian was working with the labor attorney on this. You might have something for tonight.
Looking forward to that because we need one.
Okay, so we'll just talk about that later.
Yeah.
That's done. Number 4, discussion of amending Chapter 90 of the Town Code of the Town of Fishkill. This is the unkept properties, correct?
You'd asked me to look into preparing a property maintenance code amendment. I'm working on that, and I should have it for you. I'd like to say the first meeting in February, but I can't promise that. It'll be February, but it might be the second meeting.
Can we have something ready for the second meeting in February?
Oh, for certain.
Prepare for a public hearing and get this done?
Well, for introduction, and then a public hearing to be held after that. If it's the first meeting in February, I'm going to try, Ozzy.
Well, if we do the second meeting in February, we set
Set
the
the
public
public
hearing for the
hearing to be in
second meeting in March. Can we do something like that?
Yeah.
'Cause I got some properties that are just,
No, I understand.
I feel bad
It's
for
an
these
important
people.
thing
I
to
feel bad
have,
for the residents.
But you can't just, you know, it takes some drafting to have it done right, so.
no, I want it done right.
I'll
Can
get it done
we,
as quickly
is this going to include automobiles too?
Sure.
Okay. Everything
Trees,
okay with Brian?
automobiles, whole 9 yards.
Whole 9 yards? Thank you, sir. Next up, a discussion of abandoned utility poles. I had a problem with one pole, the state utilities, I made a complaint, they took care of it pretty quick. It was within 2 weeks they took the pole down. But I noticed some other municipalities had utility pole laws. And, Mr. Gappa, update on that?
Same thing, I have a draft at least of this law, which I can provide to you for the first meeting in February. It's very straightforward. The last utility, I guess you'd call it, a user of the pole who has a line on, they call them zombie poles, because there's a pole put up and it breaks or it's the wrong location, whatever it may be, and then they put up another one next to it. And one by one, they take the lines off the existing pole and put them on the new pole. And the last party to take their line off the pole is responsible for having it removed. So it isn't something that's usually done all at once. And you enact a code provision that says, once you get to that point, you have X amount of time to remove it. If you don't, the town can come in and do it and charge it back to you.
Understood. So can we have that prepared with the other one at the same time? So I have two
Oh, if you
public
want to
hearings?
do them in tandem, I can.
Let's do them in tandem.
All right, sure.
Yep.
How do we know who owns these zombie poles?
I don't know, man.
I mean, yeah.
There's some.
How do you
there's
get
some-
it, how are they taken down?
There's some metal tags on the poles.
Yeah.
And then you contact the state utility, you file a complaint, you put the tags number. But I guess the first one is the utility company, and then the phone companies put their stuff on there, and then they work their way back. So, for example, Central Hudson put up a new pole, they took their line off, and then Verizon had to take theirs off, and then Optimum took theirs off, and the last person takes the pole.
The owner of the pole requires, as a condition of using the pole, that if you are the last party to use the pole, it's your financial obligation to have it removed.
Yeah.
So,
Tag, you're it.
Yep. And you don't think about these things until you hear something, then you're starting to look at poles on the streets.
Right.
All right, discussion of, number 6, discussion of placing signage in the town hall building. Brian, you're working on that?
Yeah, I mean, there have been a number of employees with offices around here that say, you know, people can't find them. And when you come into the building, there's no directional. And when you go over to where Becky and Kathy are in Cooper, everyone just stops and asks them all the time where, you know, where's the tax office? Where's this? Where's this? So I think we need some directional, the new terminology is wayfinding. And so people can merely, you know, look and see, and, you know, they may want to come around and see you, Ozzy, so we need directional so they can come and look at your brand-new blackened out window.
Yep.
I know. But I think there's a guy in Poughkeepsie who works with a lot of municipalities. He's got a lot of different samples. He's going to email what they look like, and we'll pass them around and take a look and see and find out what the cost is. Because it maybe is something that if people agree to, it's got to then go out to bid. But I think
Well, if it's under 1,500, we don't have to put it out to bid.
I know. Hopefully that he's looking at the most inexpensive, but something that's attractive as well. So, you know.
All right, so,
Something
Functional most of all, I hope.
something that might be a stand right here in the hallway. They come in and pointing in different directions, even towards the, you know, the courts. But as you walk into that door, something there. He walked around and we looked, and he's the expert. So we'll see what it looks like, and I'll take a peek at it and just take it from there.
so how about we just close it, and when if it's under 1,500, we just do it and pay the bill?
That sounds fine if you want to.
Okay, John?
Yep.
Good to me.
Yeah.
Close it out, Beck. Next up is discussion of resolution to accept Oak Meadows Mobile Home Park permit application, routine. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Next up, discussion of stop signs on Merritt. I went out the other day with Carmine, Highway Superintendent Carmine Esteban, and we went to a couple intersections, and he's okay with putting a block of stop signs where Vanderbilt is, and the road north of that, I think that's, I can't remember the name, just north of that.
He was talking about the stop sign that would be closer to 52.
Yes,
That it might need a sign before it saying,
Correct.
stop sign ahead.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
You-
and there was just an accident there, wasn't
Yeah, somebody, we put somebody knocked down one of our flashing signs, taking away our camera too, so that lasted about 2 weeks.
there? It's crazy, I mean.
They had our sign or camera already?
Obviously, this is like, you know, the Autobahn or something for people, you know,
It's-
because
it's
someone
something.
unfortunately lost their life along here.
Yep.
So, I mean, we've got to do
Are
something.
you speaking of Bennington?
Bennington, that's it.
Okay.
Yep. So Bennington, we'll put some stop signs up there. Do we have to do a public hearing or just a resolution on those?
just a resolution. I looked it up after the
did
last
change
meeting,
that.
and there's a provision in the code that says that schedules can be amended by resolution.
All right.
So there's no need for local law,
So if I give you the names of the streets, you can do the resolution?
no problem.
Okay, so Joe, prepare that for tomorrow, to contact Mr. Gamba. Next one is very similar. We had a problem, cars making illegal U-turns. What they're doing is they're getting off the train in Beacon. They need to make a left onto the bridge. It's a pretty quick light, so people are going straight on Route 9D and making U-turns on Chiapardi and jumping back on the bridge. It took about 3 years. I asked the DOT, the chief followed up with DOT. They finally put a "don't block the street" and a "don't block the sign" on there. And then they advised me that the town could put up its own U-turn signs as long as it's not on the state easement. So that puts us like 5 feet from the road. And I went with Carmine the other day and inspecting these areas, and I like to put some U-turn signs on Chiapardi. Carmine knows where to put them. You guys okay with that?
Of course.
Absolutely.
I've had complaints too. and
Yeah, I'm
so-
sure you all did.
Yeah.
So that's another one, that'll be number 2, resolution number 2, U-turn signs. While we're at it, I don't have it on here, I had one more sign issue for a resolution on Old Town Road in Beacon Hills, coming toward Belvedere, leaving the development. Maybe a yield sign there, and then there's a yield sign at Washington, and change that yield sign to a stop sign. You guys okay with that?
Sure.
John?
Yeah.
So that'll be the 3rd resolution for the next meeting, Joe. We won't discuss that. All right. Next up is number 10, discussion of amending the 2024 Town Board meeting schedule. Becky, you said there was one problem with something that we have to take care of, and then everything else is
Yes,
on us?
One you have to get rid of or move or something is June 19th. It's a town holiday. I didn't catch that,
June 19th?
and none of us caught it.
Oh, indeed.
It's
It's Juneteenth.
Juneteenth.
June 17th?
June 19th.
6/19.
6/19, okay.
6/19.
All right.
I didn't catch it, and nobody else did. My apologies. And then you wanted to talk about other dates.
Well, the summer months. You guys want to eliminate, what we've been doing the last 4 years is eliminating a July and a August meeting.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Let me see. Can we get rid of the 7/17 and 8/21 meetings?
That works for me.
And
So-
June 19th.
Yeah, so we'll only have one meeting in June, July, and August. You okay with that?
Yeah.
So you're just going to eliminate the meeting on the 19th? You're not going to replace it with anything?
Nope.
Okay.
No, so we're just getting rid of those 3.
Nine-
Okay, we'll take care of it with the newspapers.
Do I have to do anything else?
No, we're not doing.
No
There's
resolution?
a lot of work for us to do.
No resolution or nothing like that?
You can just amend it.
Okay.
You're just amending the town board.
Thank
Do
you.
we need to call a vote or ayes or whatever?
Do what?
You can cancel a meeting without having the entire board vote on it. If you wanted to make it all official, you could all vote to cancel those 3 meetings.
Take it.
It's not legally required.
All right. Whatever you want to
We
do.
can just put the vote in the minutes instead of doing a resolution-y thing. No?
Absolutely.
I'm in favor.
That's what they want to do.
We all agree anyway, so.
Yeah, so
consider it
can't we
voted.
just leave it?
It's not legally required to have a vote to cancel those meetings. If you
So
want to
that's
do
not
it
even
officially,
allowed.
you can
Yeah,
have
okay,
a vote.
perfect. Thank you. We'll take care of our end.
Number 11, discussion of resolution to accept Nitty Management Corp. 9D Mobile Home Park Permit Application, routine, everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
The same one for BGB, number 12, everybody okay with that?
Also, yes.
Number 13, resolution to authorize Vanderwater and Vanderwater to enter a tax cert for KM Farrell Real Estate LLC, everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Number 14, discussion of resolution to offer dedication and mutual agreement for Washington Sword Monument. I don't have an update on that, Brian. Can you give us an update on that?
Well, we need to put,
Is that in for consent?
we need to put the agreement up for discussion, right?
Yeah, the agreement's very straightforward. It's the same one we discussed before. The document that we have requires at paragraph 2 to have a Schedule A of the construction plans for the monument. You're going to want to, if you haven't already, review the construction plans for the monument before you approve the agreement. And then if you look at paragraph 3, it requires in the language in the agreement that you specify the location of the monument.
Which we have.
Well, all right, but not in the agreement, Jan.
Okay.
So that needs to be added in order for you to approve this, because
Okay.
otherwise you have a blank as to where the monument's going to go.
I mean, we all agree it to be in the Monument Park, right?
I agree with what you working with Mr. Gabba to get it done.
Okay, fine. I mean, just so the residents know, just a quick synopsis. We, I think you and I, Ozzy, kind of snapped with this being the idea at one particular time, and because we wanted to do something for the celebration of the 250th of our nation's history, and the Bailey Sword Project came to mind as one that would get appreciation in our gift to the entire nation. Mrs. Brownell advised us on this. Denise Van Buren has been advising, as well as she is staying involved. We have someone that would volunteer landscape architecture. Landscapers would be involved. Fishkill Historical Society has been great about participating. Michael Karopian has we've already somewhat agreed, we've agreed on what it will look like. He's done a mock-up. He will, once we get this finalized, he'll come and do a presentation on what that looks like. Bob Van Winkle, of course, will be placing it. Virgil Capillari is part of advising. There are a lot of other people that are giving of their time, and we're really appreciative of it. So I'll call you and figure out little details, and we need to get this done so we can move forward.
So put it back on for February. I don't know whether it'll be the first or the second meeting, though.
Well, let's just do the second, just to get it, make sure we have time.
So what are you going to do? You want to do you'll have the resolution ready by then?
Oh, yeah, the resolution is just
So what do we need to-
accepting the agreement, but you need to finalize the language in the agreement.
Okay, so you're talking why do we need a discussion item then? I want to close it and just go straight to the resolution?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's close this out, and when he prepares the resolution, we'll just do a resolution. The next up is discussion of adding tow companies to the Town of Fishkill towing list. I got a couple of requests earlier this year to add a couple tow companies. I just want to get the town board members' thoughts about this. Anybody have any questions about it?
Well,
Ideas?
John, do you have any thoughts?
I have a couple thoughts. I have a couple suggestions.
Cool.
So, we are working with a tow list rotation of 4 contractors in Fishkill and have been for several years now. And we've had a couple. One tow company has been persistent trying to get on the tow list for the last several years. And then there's one new one that just popped up. So here's what I would suggest, and I'll just throw it out there. 1, we add tow boss to the rotation, effective February 1st. 2, we ask our police department to do the inspections of our tow contractors on the current list, including tow boss, including Wappinger's Auto Tech, who is looking to get on the rotation list. Let them do all the preliminary work. Let them check all the boxes, let them make the determinations based on our guidelines, who is eligible and who may not be eligible to be on this tow list. Let them come to us with a report, maybe on March 6th for a discussion, and on March 20th, the town board can vote to see who we're going to put on the tow list.
Right.
Obviously, under the previous board, we had a person that was in charge of this whole tow thing, so I just took a back seat. But in discussions with different people, but I've learned that Town of Wappinger has their tow list that they've set in 2007. And they haven't changed it. This is anecdotal. I don't know it to be 100%, set in concrete. But they only seem to hire companies that are, a resident of that town. So I don't know if this is what people out there know to be a fact or not. But what I'm wondering is, do we have too many? Where does this need to be tweaked a little bit? I mean, it seems pretty active and pretty,
That's why we're discussing it.
Yeah. I'm not set on really making a decision tonight on adding anybody.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a personal proponent of the idea that if it isn't broke, you don't fix it. I'm not aware of there currently being any issues with any of the contractors that are on our tow list. Certainly, it's never been brought to my attention that there are any issues. I'm also not aware of there being a need for an increased number of vendors on the list. I'm not aware of there being a shortage or an inability of our contractors to respond, though that would indicate that we needed to increase the number of people currently on the list. So I'm certainly happy with the idea, that the police department can perform their inspections and do the other, reporting that's necessary, but I'm not persuaded that we need more tow people on the list than we currently have.
Okay, so if we ask the police department to do these inspections, they can do the inspections on the 4 that are on the list now, and even on the 2 that are trying to get on the list. So we'll have so we don't have to wait another 3 months. We'll know who's eligible and who's not.
I don't think anybody that's on the list is not eligible. Why would somebody on the list be not eligible?
Well,
There's a question about residency. We had somebody from Beacon for the last 30 years.
I don't think there's a question about residency.
Questions about what?
First of all, has there been any representative looking at these tow companies?
Well, Councilwoman Daniele, when she was on the board, was looking at them.
Okay, well, does she have a list for us to look at, so her notes, so we know that there's been inspections done recently?
I don't know.
Okay. So do we know what the tow list information is?
I just know that I have not received any complaints from the 4 current tow companies.
Okay.
And there was a question about maintaining something in the town, but that hasn't been in effect for 30, 40 years.
John, have you received any complaints about any of the vendors currently on our list?
No, I have not, but I think we ought to have some updated information that there's representatives that are doing inspections as per our guidelines.
That would be up to the Fishkill DOT.
No. You can speak at the,
Anyway, I'm kind of status quo right now.
Same.
So we just look at it.
okay. I'll talk to the chief, I'll communicate with the chief about this, Becky, but you can close this out for now. I'll ask him about these inspections and move forward.
Thank you.
Next up is discussion regarding renewing contract with the Alliance for Animal Rights. Tara, I'm sorry, this is yours also. Becky, give me an update on that, hon?
I really don't have it. Our contract was up the end of the year.
But we had a few left over.
Yeah, there's some left over, but in your 2024 budget, you guys only allotted $500 for 2024.
So we did allocate some money?
$500 according to the comptroller, yes.
Okay.
Which is, it was what, I think, 500 the first year, 1,000 the second, and now.
I don't remember.
I don't remember, but I believe that to be true.
Do you remember, Ann? Yes.
Yes, the first year you allocated $500, and we had another organization that donated $500. This,
Right.
so that would, yeah, that's where the $1,000.
Thank you.
So the second year, which would be last year, you allocated $1,000. However, the residents, instead of paying the $25, are paying $37.50. So instead of that $1,000 covering 40 certificates, that $1,000 covers 80 certificates.
So you're saying the price went up?
No, well, for residents, yes, it did. Not for the town. The town is still only allocating $12.50 per certificate. The residents are paying $37.50.
Isn't that still
So,
half price?
what's that?
Isn't that still half
It's,
price, right? It's a
yes,
good-
I mean,
yeah. Okay.
the town is essentially getting, or the residents are getting
Yeah.
a rescue rate.
Okay.
So, you know.
But we've
the rate-
adjusted it so that way we're
it's-
now helping twice as many people, but half as much as we were before.
No, so the town was allocating $12.50 per certificate. What happened the first year is we had another agency that stepped in and donated the other $12.50.
I understand.
And then the resident kicked in $25. So Tara, for their services, charges $50. So what happened last year, 34 were sold, So there were still funds last year for 46 certificates, which unknowingly, or else I would have been here in December saying, I mean, it's $575. Like, you're talking about all of these programs and things that are happening that you're considering, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're asking for the residents of Fishkill for $575 to push those 46 remaining certificates that we had been allocated funds for, but were not used. I say we. It isn't Stray Help. It isn't me personally. These are the residents of Fishkill that had been allocated $1,000 for 80 certificates. Only 34 certificates sold. So that $575 for the 46 remaining, that was never spent. So that's kicking around somewhere. So, you know, let's resurface that $575 and allow the residents, I mean, I'm going to say I had
You're trying to get back $572?
$575, which would allow the residents to purchase the 46 remaining certificates that were allotted from last year. So,
We have money, certificates left over
Right.
from 23,
right.
and she's asking if we can just use those.
Roll it over,
But
basically.
were you saying we need more money?
No, we were already, and again, the residents were already allocated $1,000 last year.
Understood.
Only $425 were spent.
So you want to use the remaining money?
We want to use the,
And the problem, if it's not allocated for next year, it rolls back into the general fund, I believe.
right, I understand what you're
So
saying.
you want to get back that 575.
Correct, I want the residents to be able to purchase those remaining 46
So we're going to have to do a budget.
certificates.
We're gonna have to do some type of budget to do
Right,
that.
and
Why-
500 was for 2024. There is 500.
There's 500 allocated.
So now it's a
but there's
difference
money-
of $75. Yeah.
575,
So
okay.
so you want money from last year that wasn't used to be added to this year?
Correct.
So, can I ask, why is it that a lesser amount was sold? It sounds like there's a
Well, there
pool
were-
of money that was allocated, but not a lot of people participated, or?
Well, there were 40 that were sold in the first year, and again, so the residents only had to pay $25 per certificate. Last year, there were 34 sold. So, I mean, we're averaging, 36 certificates a year? I mean, it's
Right.
only been 2 years, so, you know.
The 500 accounts for how many? That's appropriated now?
So I would have to do the math.
40.
I mean, whatever that is,
At
you know.
$1,250, 500 would be 40 of the certificates.
Yeah, so we're
basically,
asking
we
for
need
another 6
$75
certificates.
would cover the other 6.
Yeah, so, you know, we're asking for the residents to be.
If it's already allocated, what the heck?
It's not allocated.
allowed.
Well,
It's another
encumbered.
$75.
It's not encumbered. It's not encumbered.
Okay.
So it's another $75 that would need to be
She wants to have
adjusted.
a
But
budget modification for the
I would like
75.
to share a couple of stories.
Is it in demand, though? Let me just ask you this.
That's what I'm going to share. So-
So how many certificates do we have left right now?
46 tickets.
46.
46 certificates. We have $500, which covers, what, 30?
40 of the 46.
40 of them. So we're asking for the full 46 that was allocated from last year to be, you know, allowed this year. To answer your question, if I may answer your question.
Yeah, you may.
So every Monday, there's a shuttle that Tara brings in, and people, residents, and from all over can come, and they board their animal, their pet, their trapped animal, whatever, to the shuttle that it can be transported to the stationary clinic in Middletown. It's like, other than the Walmart cat food aisle, it's like the biggest pickup joint for pet parents, you know? So I'm talking to this guy, and he's relaying this story, and I'm sure you'll know the story, Becky. And the incident, what happened to this man, was clearly traumatizing for him. And I will say, he had unspayed females, and there were lives lost because he couldn't afford to get them spayed. You know, I'm not saying that the timing would have worked out, but there are people out there that do not have money. And, you know, Stray Help is doing everything that we can to serve the community, but, you know, we're not rolling in money here. So we're asking for the town to keep their commitment to the residents to allow those 46 certificates. We're not talking big money here, but we are talking big goodwill. So, you know, it was a very traumatizing event for this individual, and it's not the only individual that this happens to. We get calls all the time. I can't afford to spay my cat, to neuter my cat, or I found a cat, somebody, my neighbor moved, and now I'm taking care of this cat that's been abandoned. So, we're not talking about a ton of money here, but it is goodwill towards the residents of Fishkill who, not everybody is cat people, but I think that we can all understand someone else's compassion to another being that they're responsible for.
So in general, you would like the $575 from last year that wasn't used to be placed in the
Correct.
2024 budget. Joe, can you write that number down?
Correct.
575?
But and Becky, you said there's already 500. You said that 500 had
Budget
been.
amendment of $75.
Comptroller, when
Okay.
we were
Okay.
emailing,
Okay.
that's what she said there was 500.
500, okay. Because you had mentioned 10 certificates, and I thought, oh, that's not, okay.
I think,
There
I
is
got you.
one other little issue, is that the contract's expired. We have no contract right now.
Okay.
It's easy
That
enough
can
to
be
read
fixed,
the
yeah.
contract, that's not a problem. I
Yeah.
can have.
Right, I'm just saying, I don't want that to get forgotten either.
Right,
And
that
just to be clear, she's
that
asking for
Steve
another
would need to sign that.
$75, not $575.
No,
Right.
she said, you asked for 575.
There's already
In
5,
total.
Right, there's
right?
5.
So I'm asking for the additional $75.
You asked only for $75.
$75, that's it.
For me, that's a no-brainer, but.
Okay.
I feel pretty good about that.
All right.
Not tough. Any other questions? as
I
far as
think
that
we
goes?
were a few minutes ago.
All right. Next up is resolution to hire Ms. Perez. Everybody okay with that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Next one, Ms. Vasillo. We're okay with that?
Yes.
Number 19, resolution affirming the payment of minimum wage. It's routine. Everybody okay with that?
Of course.
Number 20, resolution for formal update on police accreditation. So, do you guys want to do this or not? We're going on our 5th year of trying to get this done.
Well,
I either want to take this off my plate or we get it done. That's what I want to know.
Well, I mean, it seems as though when you hired the chief, that he said that that was a priority, and he's like a long way through it, and he's just working through it, so why wouldn't we want to continue on?
He's going to be chief for 5 years. We just had municipalities. It was a full-time agency that got it done in 18 months. How long do we wait to do it? I'd like to see, well, first, John, would you like to continue with the accreditation?
Yeah, but, you made a statement on August 17th of '22 to close the discussion on accreditation.
And I put it back up.
So you're putting it back up tonight?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I believe the discussion tonight is to request a formal review from the chief. And I think that that's an entirely reasonable thing because it's a rather complicated process from what I understand. It's time-consuming, there's a lot of moving parts, and I think we all would benefit from a very clear understanding of what the process entails and where we are in that process.
So there are 3 items for discussion coming up. This one, take-home cars for lieutenants and a recertification. Any idea why the chief wasn't invited tonight so we could talk about this?
Why was not invited?
Yeah. I mean, you want to talk about police accreditation, he is the guy who's leading that department. Why wouldn't you invite him, ask him to talk?
Nobody prevented you guys from inviting him.
You set the agenda.
You guys talk to him every day. You guys are buddies, you guys.
You set the agenda, Mr. Supervisor.
That
And
sounds a
Mr.
little,
Supervisor didn't ask him. I'm asking you, the town board, because if you say you don't want to do, if you don't want a report, then why bother with it? So what's on the table right now is, do you guys want a formal update on police accreditation?
I don't
We're five
understand.
years in, like, what I want to know is, a scale of 1 to 100, he says he's 76% done. What is the remaining 24% that we need to do, and how long it will take to do the remaining 24%? I'd like to see some hard dates.
Which is why he should be standing over there answering your questions.
And we can.
The purpose of the discussion is to find out whether or not we would like him to be standing here providing us with that information.
I think all you had to do was email him and ask him. I don't understand why it had to be on the agenda, and I'm sorry, but the tone, you guys are best buddies, and you call them all the time. This is, I work with every department, I
Okay.
try to, and I don't understand that at all. This is only our police department, so I
This
just don't, I don't understand.
The item is.
Wait a minute, you took it off, you put it back on. All you had to do was email him and ask him to come here. Why does a board need to ask him? But if you want my opinion, sure. Email him and ask him what's going
I
on.
want to know, is it okay to find out a determining date to get this done?
Sure, ask him.
If he says tomorrow, if he says 10 years from now, I want to know that.
Email and ask him, that's all you gotta do. He's your chief. Just ask him.
You okay with that?
Fine by me.
So I was going to ask what's remaining and projected time of completion,
Why not?
or not.
Sounds good.
Joe, take care of that. Next up is discussion of lieutenant take-home cars. The board voted last year or the year before to give take-home cars to 3 lieutenants. The HR director said one person does not take the car. I'm getting ready to do the contract negotiations. Do you still want to provide that benefit?
Oh, I would think that for those lieutenants who feel it's important, why not,
Okay. Any idea how many times they've come to a call in the
Oh, I
last year and a half?
I don't really, I mean, if they had one potentially that was an emergency and it saved time, that's good, but I really don't understand. I mean, we went through this, we had these discussions, and we allowed it as a board last year, so why
Well,
not?
we got a contract coming up, and we need money to pay for the contract. And I don't plan on raising taxes to accommodate take-home cars.
All right, the
So
lieutenants.
how much would that possibly raise taxes?
I don't
for?
know.
I don't understand what the
I don't
issue is.
know.
We discussed this and passed it, so.
And one of the reasons why we gave them take-home cars was they can come to calls. I don't know how many calls they went to in the last year and a half.
Maybe it was one, who knows? I don't know. I don't track that.
Do you have a desire to find out?
Why don't you just email him and ask?
Are you okay with that?
You're the executive of the town, he's your chief.
I'm
Just
asking
email
you,
and ask
I'm
him.
asking you if you were okay with that.
Of course, ask him.
Yeah,
Like,
by all
you know,
means,
if
inquire
you-
about that.
You're curious for whatever reason, I think it's a
We're going
legitimate
to write a letter to the
question.
chief to find out how many times the lieutenants were called
understand
into
why
a
it's an
into a
issue.
call. It's an issue because if they don't come to calls, then it's an issue why we give them the cars.
Are the lieutenants even are they part of the PPA?
No, but they're part of the PBA budget. The police department has one budget.
You're
So if I
talking,
need
Yeah,
it
but you mentioned that you're middle of negotiation for the PBA.
Well, we're starting
Agreement.
negotiations, yeah.
you're talking about command staff taking a car home. If there's an emergency, they have it, as opposed to driving from wherever they live to come and park their car, check out another car, and then go to whatever crime scene that's calling. We help with that efficiency with the command staff. It's one small thing. I don't know that that's having a huge, major budget impact.
Hey, listen.
And I think it's an efficiency thing for our command to be able to be flexible, to go be called to an emergency.
have a
What
policy
is
in
the
place.
issue?
We're paying gasoline, tolls, insurance, vehicle maintenance. That's probably a $10,000 a year benefit. That's 3 cars, that's 30 grand.
I
That's
don't know.
one- that's one-
Do you
that's-
have
That's
that?
almost one part-time cop.
Are you speculating, or you know that's what it is?
I don't know, you tell me.
No, you tell me. You're
Yeah.
you're the one that wrote the budget.
So
You're the
when
one
we
that
do-
axed 280,000 out of his budget, so you tell me.
There were no cuts on the police budget.
Yeah,
What are you
it was.
talking about?
You took a lot of things out of it.
His dream list? What are you talking about? We went through this. He was here. You had a chance to amend the budget. You didn't amend the budget. Come on, Brian.
Listen,
Come on, Brian.
I'm not going to pick a fight with you. I'm just
You're
telling you.
not gonna win the
I
fight.
am telling you, you wrote the budget, you approved the budget, you took things out that he requested.
He never put things in that he
Okay,
requested.
Okay, I know
There's
what
a
I
di-
did.
no,
and
you're not-
didn't do. I'm just saying the guy knows what the numbers are because he took them out. So how come you don't know what that, if this is such a big issue with you, how come you don't know what the number is?
Councilman, you're displaying a lack of understanding of how the budget is written. It's not written where the department head submits a list and that's the amount and then cuts are made to it. The department head will submit a list and the supervisor and the comptroller will determine a reasonable budget and then fit as many things into that from the list as they can. Some things don't make the cut. That doesn't mean that they were removed. It means that there was a budget amount that was determined and there were only so many things. You can't put 10 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound sack.
Okay, Greg, first of all, I'm not displaying anything, we're having a discussion, so please don't correct me on that. I would
Excuse me,
not
sir,
do
when
that
you
to
are stating that the supervisor
I would not
removed
do
more
that
than
to
$250,000
well,
from the
it's a-
chief's
it's a-
budget, it
it's-
was never the chief's budget, it was his wish list.
My point is that this seems to be a major issue with you, and you're talking about $30,000 extra benefit, but you're the one that should know that because you were working with the budget, is my point. I don't understand what the problem is. Why don't you,
And just be prepared, when the contract is done,
and we discussed this
I'm going to
last
do the
year.
best that there's no tax increase, and this will be one of the cuts I'm going to propose. So just be aware when that
This is a
comes
major
up.
cut. How much would that affect?
Listen,
You don't know.
when.
Even though we have a policy in place
you-
to take on cars?
What's the
We
matter?
discussed this last year. What is the issue?
When people come here and they literally can't afford to pay their water bill.
Oh, okay.
Maybe you guys can understand that.
No, oh, I see. I'm immune from any pressures
I'm not
of
saying you're
economic
immune.
need or
You're saying-
finances.
you're saying it's
Only
fine.
you are.
You're saying it's
Only
fine.
you are,
You-
and it's worthy of you to do that, to maybe there's an efficient, we discussed this last year and voted on it.
And we're gonna
You are
discuss it every-
picking an unnecessary issue, making it out of
It is
nothing.
not unnecessary, so the issue was if there was an
I'm finished
emergency.
talking about it.
If it was an emergency, they would show up to calls. If they're not showing up to calls, I don't see the reason to give them take-home cars. If they do go on calls, then I could see the other side.
So
That's
call them
all.
up and ask them.
I'm gonna
Why are
write
you
them, I'm
asking
gonna write them a
us?
letter
Have that
tomorrow.
discussion. You don't know what the
You
dollar
want to
amount
have
is or
a
anything else.
discussion about lieutenant take-home cars? Have a discussion about it. Have a discussion with the
I
lieutenants.
want to make sure you guys are on board.
On board with what?
All you had to do was email him.
Next up,
It's 2 items, all you had to do was email him about.
we'll talk about the recertification executive session as requested by a board member. Under personnel matter, number 23 is discussion of the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, celebration in the town of Fishkill. Brian, any comment on that?
The 250th, well, I mean, I basically ran through it with this contract thing with, so I've got nothing at this particular point to add. You were discussing at one point a major parade. I just want to say this, having been a member of a marching band in high school, the route that you were talking, the length, you're going to kill people if you
I
go
know.
that whole length. I mean, the idea
I
of
know.
a celebration and something like that, we could talk, but that's a long way.
Mr. Gabby can lead the charge.
Maybe you put me on a float, I don't know other than
I
that.
don't know, you're right.
Need to get a Teddy Roosevelt reenactor, straight up San Juan Hill.
That's right, it's gonna be hot, too. John, you still want to do it, right?
What?
250th anniversary.
Well, hell yes.
Well,
Sorry,
listen.
don't mean to cuss.
Okay. 'Cause I'm
Yeah.
gonna put money in the budget for it, the whole line.
Well, I mean, we should discuss what we want. I don't know what kind of, you're talking about for next year, obviously.
Well, it's gonna be for the 2026 budget.
Yes.
Okay,
Now, we got to do something.
okay. Greg?
Oh, I'm very much in favor of maximizing the town's participation in America 250. There are not many towns in our country who have a history that dates back as far as ours, and of the towns that do, there are few that can boast a more prominent role in the American Revolution. So when you combine those two things, and what I would describe as a very patriotic population of our town, who enjoy these types of celebrations, I think that we should be aggressively planning, both in terms of what we are intending to do and how much we are intending to spend, but that is an investment which can last far beyond the event itself if we strategize and spend money wisely in terms of creating not just a gift for Fishkill residents, but a gift to the nation out of America 250 for Fishkill. I think very much in favor.
Okay. I'm sorry, John, did I miss you?
No.
You okay with this?
Yeah.
How much money, what is a reasonable amount that I propose in 2 years to do this?
Yeah, let's talk about that more, because I can't do that off the cuff. It depends upon what we want to do, you know. I mean,
I'd like to see some fireworks at the end of the parade, for example.
There's not enough here tonight.
No, I mean, hey, listen.
Well, this is tame by experience standards.
We're gonna
This
get
is
this
true.
happening.
Don't add to it.
So, that's what I'm thinking about doing.
No, we should have a lot of fun and make it really special, but let's get a plan here so then we can budget it, you know.
Okay.
Are we going to try to, have the village involved with us, or?
Listen, the village is doing their own thing this year, their 100th anniversary.
That's true. Did they invite us? No. So you're right. Just kidding.
Shots fired.
Thank you, Mr. Rye.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding, Mayor Martin.
The clerk said we're not the village.
Just kidding, Mayor Martin.
Okay, all right. Next up, a discussion to adopt a stipend for the affordable housing program. This has also been a discussion for a while. We're supposed to give the assessor a stipend for running their affordable housing program. I doubled it for this year. It'll be cut in half for next year. Any questions on that?
Yeah, what exactly does the affordable housing program do? And why is there a stipend for it? Is that a requirement, or is it?
There's no requirement for a stipend. The assessor is the assessor. He was forced to take on the task by the previous supervisor. He doesn't, the town of Wappinger pays that salary, so you can look at that as some subsidization. And if he doesn't do that, he's not obligated to do the affordable housing program. So if he doesn't do it, and we don't vote to do this, somebody's going to have to pay somebody to do it.
Well, I certainly don't object to paying for the affordable housing program, but before we authorize the stipend, I'd like to learn a little bit more about, for instance, how many man-hours does he put into it? How many residents does that program serve, et cetera? I'd like a little bit more data before we just authorize spending money on a
I'm
stipend.
100% with you, and I think we tried to find that out last year when all of a sudden we just felt like we had to do it. But those are exactly my questions, like, and...
Yeah. I mean, if this is something that takes up a significant portion of his work hours in the town of Fishkill, then by all means you pay the man, but I would like to understand what that ratio is relative to his overall work duties.
How many do we have? And didn't he say something like 5 units or something?
It's more than that. The problem is, we're in a quagmire here. We got like over $1 million in this affordable housing trust fund. We can't do anything until the state comes to a final solution, because if we start something, they might change it, and we can't do it. So we're stuck.
We're totally stuck.
We're stuck right now, but we need to have somebody to run it, because there are people that, maybe 3 homes were sold last year, and other people got it, and we got to have some continuity to prepare for this updated affordable housing program.
And I mentioned to you something about...
And it would come out that trust fund. It wouldn't come out of the taxpayers' money.
Right, right.
So could you guys individually speak to the assessor and find out, get your questions answered?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we table this and the resolution to the first meeting of March. Is that plenty enough time, guys?
Oh, absolutely.
Greg, you want to email them your questions and copy us, and
sure,
we can add to it.
That's perfect.
Absolutely.
So close out the discussion of the discussion.
What is that dollar amount, by the way?
I thought it was $15,000, because we didn't pay him for last year.
Yeah.
So it'll be that amount for this year, and next year it'll be half that amount.
So we're closing the discussion, but moving the resolution to 3.6.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's okay for our part-time assessor to have a take-home car, but your question whether our police lieutenant should have a take-home car.
I don't know where you're going with that, but that's part of the contract that was signed before I got here.
Okay.
And plus, I don't know how the assessor goes. The assessor goes and looks at houses and does his inspections. I don't know how you do that on foot. So
You can take your personal car and pay him mileage.
Oh, I think that's a huge liability if he gets into an accident on the town's time.
The contract expires in a year or two. We can review that, and we can pay him per diem. I got no problem with that. I don't object to that. I don't object to that. Privilege of the floor for agenda items. You're allowed to speak about anything. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. I have, just want some clarification. The stop signs going up on Merritt, as you know, I live there.
Yeah.
And I did pull out of development Saturday morning and do not see the crosswalks.
Not even 2
So,
weeks.
stop signs are going, from my understanding from now. We now will have a four-way stop sign when I pull out on Vanderbilt onto Merritt. I've got one on my side coming out. Okay, it's been there, they're told put that up. On the other side, they have one coming in from the townhouses. Okay, so now you're going to be putting 2 signs in both those areas on Merritt. Okay, so now we're going to have a four-way stop sign there.
Yes.
You're going to put one sign down on Bennington, on one side coming out. They have a stop sign coming out of their development.
Both sides already have stop
And
signs.
both signs there, okay. Now, you said on Bennington, coming up, they're going to be putting another sign warning that there's a stop sign coming up.
Coming from 52 south on Merritt, that there'll be a
Right.
stop sign warning.
Well, that's kind of a
Okay.
blind curve there, isn't
It
it?
is a blind curve.
Yeah.
But at the same time, nobody's going to know that these 2 stop signs are going down by Vanderbilt on both sides of the road. Now, there were traffic studies done a few times and they're on file. Has,
For
I
stops?
understand you and Carmine were out there looking at them, okay? So their sight distance was no issue coming down Merritt from 52, coming around the curve or anything. So there was no issue having any rear-end accidents or anything like that. You're comfortable putting stop signs there?
Yeah, there's going to be we talked, me and Carmine talked about that in front of Bennington, and the issue is, what if a person makes a right or a left-hand turn anyway? There's a rear-end collision.
Yeah, because that's the same thing, when you're coming down, there's that curve coming around. So I go to the Glen, so I make the left, other people make a right. But sometimes you can't see. So if you're going to put stop signs there, the way they're putting one down on Bennington, warning people now, because now nobody knows, that you're going to be approaching a stop sign.
Is that what we
Would
said?
it
to
make
put-
sense to put one on both sides also,
So you're
down at
talking,
that end?
you're talking before coming north on Vanderbilt, or,
Well, as you're coming down, say from Route 9, heading down Merritt.
okay?
So if you're going to be putting stop signs on both sides, the north and south side, okay? Before you reach that stop sign, now that stop sign hasn't been there. I'm there since 2008.
So you want stop sign warning
I'm
signs?
just wondering, if we're going to put one down in Bend, warning people, stop sign is coming up, that they didn't know about.
I thought we were going to do that with these, is put stop sign ahead.
Yeah,
So you
stop,
want-
yeah.
So when we put up the 4 new signs, you want 4 stop sign ahead signs? Is that what you want?
Well, would that be, is that what you're getting at? Because
I don't
whatever
know.
doesn't
I'm
cause,
asking. I'm not an engineer, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, so for safety, I'm looking at safety persons. I don't oppose the stop signs going up.
Yeah.
I just want to know, for safety reasons, full security, if somebody, you're driving down Merritt all these years, and as you know, it's a speedway up and down there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now all of a sudden, you're going to come to this new stop sign on
yeah,
both sides.
I got you.
That's,
Maybe we
I'm
can
just,
have
I don't
PD
know.
put
Even if
one
Should
of
we
their
ask,
electric
one
signs
second,
there.
should we ask our highway superintendent to make an assessment and tell us?
Well, he made the assessment that we needed one coming south on 52. That's
One.
what, that's the one, but we can have him reevaluate the other 3.
Yeah,
We can do
Yeah, I'm
that.
just wondering if it, if he didn't
Dude, I
have
agree with
use
you.
of them. I mean, we don't want to be solving one problem and then creating another.
yeah.
Like I said, I mean, for me, I have stop sign coming out of the development every day. Doesn't make a difference, a few more.
All right.
I mean, for safety reasons, but
What's that, Becky?
Just, you're talking about stop sign ahead signs. Doesn't the town, that we own those signs? What are they, the police department, right?
Yeah.
Greg was
What if you
mentioning
put
that.
those
I
out
was
there for
mentioning
like a
that.
month or something? So that-
Yeah, we do that. They've been on Merritt Boulevard.
yeah, just to look
Yeah.
into it, I mean, just to make sure that for safety purposes, we don't want to exchange one problem for another.
So
That's all I'm saying.
Joe, when we write a letter to the highway superintendent tomorrow, we'll ask him to reconsider those other 3.
Okay. All right, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Agenda items only.
Good evening, guys. My
Good
name's
evening.
Matt from Tow Boss. I just want to understand, have you guys looked at the rules and regulations for the tow list for the town of Fishkill?
What do you mean?
John, do you have that copy I gave you?
Yeah. There's guidelines.
It says it's up to 6, you guys can put up to 6 on the tow list. Now, I've been trying to get on for 13 years, okay? I've had some issues in the years. I've been told that, you know what, wait until you do this, do that. I live in this town, I'm a business owner in this town. I don't know why I'm being blocked by whoever. I gotta have some answers, because what's gonna happen here is, I hate to say this, okay, but I'm ready to sue. I have a valid point. I'm a local business in this town, and I can't get on the list?
No, I said that.
Ozzy, you know I've been trying to get on, okay? And actually, 2 years ago, you were for me, and then now you're not for me.
I didn't say I wasn't for you.
And Greg, I've known you a long time. I've reached out to you, you haven't called me back, it's not a problem, I know you know. I just don't understand this. I mean, I'm the only tow company in this town for the town of Fishkill, just a tow company. and I can't work here, it's not costing the taxpayer money. It's not even costing the board money. Give me a shot. That's all I'm asking. Give me a shot. I meet all the rules and regulations. All the rules and regulations. Just give me a shot. I'm not new to this game.
I don't think anybody's blocking you. Can I answer for myself?
Sure, Brian.
And that is strictly, it hasn't been something that I looked at because I took recommendations from others who were just doing it as a liaison from the board. I just saw this in the agenda, and I'm like, I got to get my hands around this to understand this industry and these needs right now. So I just need a little time to take a look and understand it better. That's where I'm coming from.
Okay.
You know, I'm not blocking anybody. I just want to take a step.
I mean, look, at one time, I think it should only be just for at one time, years ago, I was just like, it should only be just for the Fishkill residents or business owners in this town. You know what, you guys opened it up for, great. You know what, I'm not going to take money out of his pocket. I don't care, but.
Well, my preference is businesses in the town, I'll tell you. You know, I mean, that's my preference.
I pay a lot of money, and I've been trying, I straightened up my act, and, I'm on all the state police, I'm on all the local municipalities, Newburgh, and, I like to have some kind of answer. I really, Supervisor, can you give me something? Because it seemed like you told Becky that just close it out.
Let's not close out. If we decide to put somebody on it, we'll put somebody on it.
And for me, as I said, it's a question of supply and demand. If we hear from our police department that there are more calls needing tow than our current list of providers are capable of meeting, then we need to add more people. As you said, we can have up to 6. Right now, as I'm understanding it, we have 4 companies on the list, and that those 4 companies on the list are meeting the demand currently. Now, if we discover, with more people coming, there's a lot of people living, driving in the town of Fishkill. If the chief of police or the police department comes to us and says we have more calls for tows than we have tow companies available and ready to, provide the towing services that we need, then I think everybody on the board is going to say, well, if there's a need that's not being filled, then we need to fill it. And I don't think anyone has anything against you personally. I've always gotten along well with you. So if the need arises, you apply, I'm sure that you're going to get a very fair treatment from the board. It's a question of, at this exact moment, the supply and the demand seem to be pretty equal with each other, as far as it has been conveyed to me. And if I hear otherwise, then I'll be happy to change my position.
So where does this leave me now? As far as, is it going to be brought back up next month?
I think it was put over till March, wasn't it?
No, I'm going to contact the chief and see what he says about it.
Okay. So can we put it on for the next meeting?
I don't know if we'll be ready by then.
Huh?
I don't know if we'll be ready by then.
It'll come down to when we hear from the chief.
Will I get notified, so I know?
Oh, yeah, if you're going to be placed on a board agenda for consideration, we'll be sure to notify you.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Well, thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Phil. I'm from Wappingers Auto Tech. I'm also a Town of Fishkill resident and trying to be considered for the Town of Fishkill rotational list. As Matt was saying, there's up to 6 tow vendors. As we all know, Town of Fishkill has been getting a lot busier. There is more demand for tow companies, and as a rotational list, those 4 companies are always going to meet the requirements. But why is it being blocked? Because I've had my application in for 6 years. This is like this first time that's actually been brought up that, I can come here, but, as a rotational list, they're always going to be able to meet the requirements because it's rotational. So, like Town of Poughkeepsie, they have 17 companies. Town of Newburgh has 13 companies. If it's allowed up to 6 companies, I think we should be allowed a fair chance to be on the list and just have it as a rotational list so the work's spread out fairly between everybody. That's kind of my thought on it. I don't, I feel that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening. Ralph, Mr. Lacy. I've been in Fishkill for over 50 years. I've had my own business for over 40. to answer some of the questions to Councilman Foreman and Councilman Rye, I don't know what Tow Boss promised you, why you're so hard on trying to get him on the list, but you, neither one of yous, with respect, were here at one of the last meetings when Tow Boss didn't like what he heard and walked out the door, knocking over tables and kicking chairs, swearing and yelling.
I didn't do that. Absolutely not.
Okay, I got, there's plenty of witnesses, but, okay, so neither one of you were here to experience that kind of personality. My mom always told me a leopard don't change its colors, okay? He's also been suspended from the state police list. He's back on now. From my understanding, and I'm gonna do further research, he's under investigation with Geico Insurance. Okay, that's just to say that. Now, I don't know if anybody up there has ever operated a tow truck. All right, so to answer your question, Mr. Rye, you were saying something about the Wappingers list. There's 6 companies. There's actually 7. And like Wappingers Auto Tech said, there's 15 companies in the town of Poughkeepsie, not 17. And the reason for the 15 companies, because the town of Poughkeepsie, I don't know if you know what a rotational tow list is, but let me explain to you. I've been doing this for a long time. The town of Poughkeepsie can literally burn through those 15 tow trucks in a day. Most of the time, 2 days, 3 days, they'll burn through those 15 tow trucks because of the busyness of the town of Poughkeepsie. In the town of Fishkill, I didn't bring my calendar in with me, but I can tell you, being one of the 4 tow companies that are on that list after waiting for 20 years to get on that list, and when the new board came in, a new supervisor, they realized that 2 companies that had been on the list for 30 years, the town of Fishkill could have used more companies, which they did for a long time. Like I said, I tried for over 20 years. Finally, I got accepted to the list. Now, the town of Fishkill, if I get called once a week, that's a lot. You're not getting called twice, 3 times. Sometimes you go a week and a half, 2 weeks before you get called. Now, we got to divide that up by 4 rotations. So if I'm getting called once a week, or the other 3 other companies are getting called, however long it takes. So to add any more companies to the list, it's just not necessary. And it's like Greg said, it's not that you're allowing up to 6 companies, which means the other 2 companies that have applied would be on a waiting list. Just like I waited for a very long time, just as long as Fishkill, to get on the town of Poughkeepsie. I must have waited 30 years to get on that list. Finally, my ticket came up. There was an opening spot. They called me. I met the requirements, and I was on the list. Okay? Now,
What were their requirements? I'm just curious.
well, you got to go through the DOT. You got to go through DOT inspection.
Yeah.
They have their own DOT agency in the town of Poughkeepsie, so that you actually go and they inspect your vehicles. On top of, you got to pass New York State inspection anyway. And if you carry a HUD sticker, you have to go through a more extensive inspection. So for us to have our trucks on the road, they would have already passed inspection through New York State. But if you feel that necessary to have DOT inspect our trucks, which I'm completely fine with it. I mean, if my truck's not good, if one of my trucks aren't good, it shouldn't be on the road anyway. Okay, so certainly if somebody points something out on one of my trucks, I want to correct it. So the town of Poughkeepsie, you got, like I said, you have all these companies on there because it's required. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise you couldn't keep up with the demand that the town of Poughkeepsie puts out. Town of Wappingers, there's 7 companies on the list. And to answer your question, Councilman, is that, like you were saying something about Fishkill, and like Tow Boss was saying, he's a business in Fishkill, and he is. But there's an Article 81 that State Supreme Court passed a law many years ago, and hopefully the town attorney would know this, that as long as it's been in State Supreme Court, it was passed, as long as the tow company can meet the requirements and the ETAs, an adjoining township should not be accepted to that toll list. Okay, that's case law. Okay, so you can look it up. Now, getting back to Tow Boss and Wappingers Auto Tech. Let me explain to you a little something, how these tow lists work. I'd have to say, every tow company that I know of, and I know them all, because they all call me and text me, and I keep everybody informed pretty much on who's next on the list, so we don't miss a turn. Everybody texts me, and I text everybody else, you're up, this one's up, I'm like, this is what I do. It's a pain in the butt, but I do it. I enjoy doing it. So, I could say that 9 out of 10, Wappingers Auto Tech being 10, okay, got 3 to 4 lists that they're on. All right, me, myself, Town of Poughkeepsie, State Police, Sheriff's Department, Town of Poughkeepsie State Police, Sheriff's Department, Town of Fishkill. I'm on 4 lists, which means I get 4 turns, 1 turn per that list, okay? I've been accepted. I know people in Newburgh. I know people in the police station in Newburgh. I was accepted to go on to the Town of Newburgh tow list. You know what I said? Don't want to do it. You want to know why? Because I don't think it's fair that a customer crashes their car in Newburgh, gets their car impounded in Newburgh, whatever, and it's going to be brought back to Wappinger Falls, and then that person's got to worry about their vehicle being brought back to Wappingers Falls when they're across the river in Newburgh, or they got to come retrieve their vehicle from Wappingers Falls. Wappingers Auto Tech don't have a problem with that. He's on the Town of Newburgh list twice on the 2 companies. He's formed another company so he can get more rotations. Wappingers Auto Tech, when I said he's number 10, he's the only one, and I'm sorry, Phil, because I know he's talk all the time, but he's the only one with 10 turns on, 11 turns on the list. 11, okay? He's on the State Police twice. He's on the Sheriff's Department twice. He's on the Village of Wappingers twice. He's on, did I say Sheriff's Department?
But what does that have to do with here?
Well, no, I'm just trying to say that, you know, how much is enough?
Well, I mean,
How much is enough?
That's not our choice.
That's enough of this.
How much is enough?
That's not our choice,
That's
though.
good.
But how much is enough, is what I'm trying to say, okay?
This is why I gotta get a handle on this. This is a whole
I'm
new
trying to
thing.
point out personalities here, sir. I'm trying to point out personalities here. They have no problem
You're-
going
and
down
you're
to Putnam County. I'm speaking.
I know, but you're also like talking to people back here.
No,
like-
I'm not talking to anybody back there.
Accusatory.
I'm just pointing people out, okay? So I'm also saying that they have no problem going to Putnam Valley, and you know how big Putnam Valley is. Where's the Putnam Valley line? They have no problem going down there, picking cars up, bringing them back to their locations, all right? And it doesn't matter if you have 25 tow trucks.
All right, guys, that's enough. That's enough. We got our
It's
labor
too
attorney
much.
here.
It doesn't matter
So-
to us.
so-
That's his business. It's not mine.
There are 2 more spots open. They can wait their turn, like I did for over 20 years. They can wait their turn, and when a spot opens up, God forbid, one of the 4 tow companies that are on the list now gets suspended, leaves the county, the next in line would come in. And the way it should be would be Tow Boss, because he had his application in before Wappingers Auto Tech. That's the way it should be, from my knowledge anyway. And that's really all I have to say. I don't have anything to say. I just want to, you can ask me any questions you want, I'll answer them.
Okay.
You know, if you got any questions, I'll answer them.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we got no items for special consideration.
Nope, we still have to do.
You got something to say? Come on. Ann, you got
Got
the
a
floor.
couple somethings to say. Okay. So, you know, as we are all looking at the history and the new historian came in, I am curious and hopeful that there will be something, February is Black History Month, March is Women's History Month. So maybe the town historian can also expand, you know, what is being considered for, you know, looking at how this town was formed. There's a lot of, you know, women and African-American people that have helped form this town. So I would like to see a little bit more
Yes,
of that.
the Underground Railroad went through Baxtertown Road.
Exactly,
And the
yep.
women of the DAR in 1897 dedicated a revolutionary burial ground to the war dead, something the Met cannot
I was a member of the
do.
Melzinga chapter myself, yes.
So Joe, an email to the town historian regarding Black History Month, and what'd you say, March was Women's History?
March is Women's History Month.
Yes.
I also just wanted to make a quick comment on the affordable housing. Not so much the stipend, although, there was a time when Fishkill had a very robust and healthy affordable housing. But I think that the term affordable housing, I've heard it almost used in like a disdain. We really are talking about senior and workforce housing. So, I've even heard the word migrant as though it's a dirty word in this room.
Anybody on sports say that?
Yes. So I just,
I
want to.
wouldn't know who said
that. Okay. So, listen, and maybe my hearing is off. I don't think so. We could always play the tape. But I'm just saying,
I don't remember anybody saying it.
workforce housing has a place here. We're not talking about, those people. We're talking about our people who are getting priced out of this area. We have these little tiny apartments that are being put in at $2,000 a pop. That doesn't encourage people to stay here. I know myself, I don't have children myself, but I have nieces and nephews who can't afford to live in the area. They have to live with my sister, which she's not thrilled about that necessarily. Anyway, so I think that really the affordable housing, I personally would love the workforce housing department to be developed. And, if it takes a stipend for this person, but they need to earn that stipend, like, isn't there money in the workforce housing fund from
We
when
have a little bit over, we have about maybe 1.1 million in the affordable housing.
Let's put it to work.
I agree with you. I got 4 children under 21. They
Yeah.
can't afford to
Yeah.
move out. I
Yeah.
recognize it, I live it.
I actually
Yep.
had a conversation with the developer of affordable housing in Westchester, one of business meetings that I've had down there. And I tried to get him to come here and present and tell us, what does that mean? Because nobody knows. When I say, what does it mean? I don't know what it means, because where does the money come from? How is it built? Whoever's building it has to make a profit. What makes it affordable? How do you get it affordable? And what's the math on that all the way across the board? So there are just a lot of questions here. And I know everyone, if we didn't buy our home, and we did, I couldn't afford to live here.
No,
But
no
nobody
way.
can live anywhere anymore, because everyone's priced out everywhere. So the issue is how much,
Well,
where,
there's
and
a
all those
whole
types of things,
system.
which is why I pointed out, it would be great to have someone that is a grant writer, so we can begin developing that concept a little further.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe that there was, when that department actually existed before it was demolished by your predecessor, there was no grant writing, which, listen, I love grants. I write grants. I have successfully written grants for our organization. I am all for the grants. But the, workforce housing, there's a whole system, I'm only learning from, what I'm hearing Paul talk about, who, as you know, was the director. So, but I would be remiss in not saying something about the towing. I can't speak to the details, anything like that. I think it's a reasonable request to make sure that the 4 that are on the list follow the protocol and they have their correct licensing and all of that, and I agree with that. But I would be remiss if I didn't say that these 2 gentlemen have pulled my butt out of a sling more than once, and I appreciate that. They were, timely, very helpful, and I felt safe being taken care of.
Who?
So, these 2 gentlemen here.
Identify them.
Oh, well, okay. Ronaldo, if you would stand, wave, and Tommy. And poor Tommy had to come hours away, actually. That was a little outside the town of Fishkill, but thank you. That was quite a mess. So, you know, just from a business standpoint, you know, if the needs are being filled and the people who are on that list are fulfilling their obligations, you know, if they're not, then they shouldn't be on the list, or they should be, you know, given time to make corrections, you know, if that is necessary. And lastly, I would like to close by saying thank you very much again for considering and approving the renewing the contract with Tara and getting that situation straightened around. Thank you.
I have one more thing.
No, Ronaldo, that's it, then I have to let them speak.
One more thing.
All right, go on.
Real quick. Just to bring out to your attention, 3 of the 4 companies that are on your list now have body shops. I'm included. We have body shops, so, and the majority of the tows that do occur in the town of Fishkill are accidents. There are DWI impounds, things like that, but the majority are accidents. So we have the facility to take care of these vehicles if they needed to be repaired, or if they're a total loss, whatever. We have that facility, 3 of the 4 companies, okay? Neither one of the companies that are trying to apply have body shops. Tow Boss is a tow company strictly, and Wappingers Auto Tech is a mechanical facility. And I just wanted to bring that to your attention also, because I think it's very important to understand that when a car gets towed from an accident in the town of Fishkill, it's being brought back to the proper facility to be taken care of.
So,
thank you.
Hi, Tommy Mosh, Wappingers. Tommy Mosh, Wappingers. So I want to change gears a little bit on some of the agenda items. This young lady here spoke of the traffic on Merritt. What I'm finding is that because of the Amazon crowd and the Gap crowd, they're just flying down the road. When we had that horrific accident on Route 9 there recently, we shut the road down for 6 hours. We were on the traffic detail. Every person asks, how do I get to Walmart? How do I get to Amazon? So my suggestion, if you could, is to do an updated traffic study with the little, from the DOT, see what the traffic increased from the original traffic study, and also do Cedar Hill, because they're flying down that road as well, to go to Amazon. I know the town of East Fishkill, I've talked to a couple of their officers, they've already started a dossier on how many traffic stops they're doing for Amazons with unlicensed registers, so forth and so on. The second thing you talked about is your anniversary. The Houstonville Fire Department just did their 100-year anniversary a couple years ago. Councilman Beal was spearheading that. I suggest you ask him what the cost and what the budgeting is for that there too. 2 more agendas. Listening to about the lieutenant, about the take-home car. It's a good idea, but that lieutenant who takes that car home has to be the on-call dedicated lieutenant for that night or that time that they're there. I don't think it's fair to take a car home and not be the on-call lieutenant. As long as he's on the on-call, that he's the one they go to, he has the car thing there. And last but not least, for the historical, still looking forward for the Red Schoolhouse property to get done, get the town acquire it and develop that little parcel there for the history of the town for the Red Schoolhouse. That's it.
That's on our agenda for February, right, Becky? It's on there.
Yes.
Joe, mark down take-home car for on-call use. Sir? Yes.
Again, my name is Phil from Wappingers Auto Tech. I just wanted to comment on Renato's statement earlier. Also, I forgot to mention earlier, I am a AAA provider for this area. So, as you know, he said most of the accidents are accidents. That's kind of false. There's been a lot of instances where there is a lot of mechanical breakdowns. So, any mechanical breakdown, you know, they're calling, instead of calling off the list, they could be calling their AAA provider. You know, if we're on the list, we can expedite getting to that scene, you know, to get the cars removed. And also, Town of Fishkill, unlike a lot of other local jurisdictions, they're allowing each tow company to get the whole scene. Okay? So if there's a 3-car accident in the middle of Merritt Boulevard and Alto or Mama's or whoever responds, and they don't have 3 tow trucks to handle all-wheel drive vehicles, now that's wasted time that the vehicles are sitting in the intersection because they can only take 2 cars if it's all-wheel drive. okay? So, I don't know if that, maybe it could be something that's looked at, that, it shouldn't be getting the whole scene. It should be each car gets a different company. That's why these other lists go so fast and there's so many providers, is because each 3-car accident, there's 3 different companies coming to that scene.
Right now.
Right now. So right now in Town of Fishkill, you get called to the scene, you're getting the whole scene. Okay? So, like I said, that's a limited, most of the companies here only have 2 trucks or 2 drivers. So if you get a multiple, it happens in, intersection by Walmart all the time, multiple vehicle accident, that's time wasted. How they're getting those cars off, providing fast enough service to get those cars off the road. I just feel like that's something I would be of assistance to, because I can help, because I do have ample amount of trucks, ample amount of employees, and to be able to serve the town of, Fishkill pretty well. And like I said, as a AAA provider for this area, a lot of times they're AAA, I get a lot of complaints from customers for AAA saying, oh, the cops wouldn't wait for us, they called, a tow company off the list instead of, their AAA, because they, are trying to expedite it. So I think, I'd be able to assist in that way as well.
What does it take to be a AAA agent?
You have to be approved by AAA. You have to go through background, all my drivers go through background checks, like vigorous background checks. All have to have clean driver's license, pretty much, the same credentials as getting, on any of the police lists. All our trucks have to be inspected, and we have to use, their portals and things like that to go, provide service.
Do you pay a fee to join that? How does that work?
We do not.
You don't pay a fee?
Nope, it's just if you're qualified to be on it and, you can get it.
So it's relatively easy to do?
To get on that list? No.
To be a AAA.
You have to be able to, sustain their calls. You have to have enough, trucks and employees to sustain, to handle their call volume.
Okay, question.
Yeah.
On the AAA list?
Yes.
Are you the same rate as a competitor who also was on the AAA list?
Yeah, they're all, AAA pays us a set rate.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Renato, he's got to go first. Renato, you went
No,
twice,
there's
he's gotta go
this
twice.
isn't a debate. Isn't this a one-time conversation thing?
30 seconds and 30 seconds.
This isn't an open forum for a
Basically, I
debate.
just want to echo Wappingers Auto Tech, with him doing AAA. I do Geico. I've been doing Geico 13 years. Basically the same thing as AAA. I'm preferred around this whole area. So I get a lot of phone calls when people are at accidents in the town of Fishkill. Unfortunately, everybody grabs them, I can't get them. And then, again, they go to a tow facility, and then you gotta get it out of there and bring it to where it's gotta go. But it's basically, I do the same thing that Phil does. You gotta meet all the rules and regulations, and, like I said, I just hope that we could come to some agreement. It's not costing the taxpayer money, it's not costing the board money, and if you just look into those rules and regulations and somebody get back to me, so we could, this shouldn't even be, this shouldn't even be an issue here, this should just be a quick, put them on, or don't put them on, It's all I'm asking for is a shot.
All right,
thank you.
Ronald, real quick, we got to go.
Real quick, because Wappingers Auto Tech made a statement that we can't handle the requirements of Fishkill. Fishkill does it right. I got to say that, where they give the scene to one company. Because I've been doing this 40 years, a lot longer than both those guys together, okay? So other areas, other police agencies will call multiple tow trucks. You know what that causes? Havoc. Everybody's racing to the scene, everybody wants to get the best car, everybody wants the guy that's not at fault. That causes havoc. Fishkill does it right. The whole scene, one company. Somebody leaves a bumper in the road, who did it? Alto did it. They left the bumper in the road. You got nobody else to blame. Nobody's pointing fingers at anybody else because Alto was the respondent to that scene. That's why Fishkill does it right. Okay. One company. As long as that company can handle the scene, and all he is up there can talk to your chief and find out if there's been any complaints, if there's been insufficient response times or anything like that at all. I have 4 trucks. I can handle anything Fishkill throws at me.
Okay.
That's
Thank
it.
you guys. That's it for
We
the.
get a weekly, we get a weekly, no, listen,
That's
have
it,
we,
we're done.
has
We're
everybody talked? I think we're
No, we're
good.
done.
All right. We get a weekly report on everybody and how things go, so,
Good evening, my name's Rob, I work for Toll Boss. There has been issues in the past with the toll list. Really, if the lawyer can look into that, because there is a company that is on that list that is not in compliance with what you have written in there. There was also an issue where a tow company was not able to provide the accurate tow on a specific call. It was a red Suburban on Route 9, and he had to call in another tow company, which is also what you guys have listed in there that is not requested. That's not allowed to be done. That's it for that. I do have to agree with Tommy as far as the traffic studies go for Cedar Hill Road and West Merritt, as far as the speeding goes. Just the other day, I was almost T-boned on Cedar Hill Road by them speeding. That's it.
Thank you, sir. All right, that's it for that. There are no items for special consideration, new or old business. I'm
Supervisor,
sorry.
we need to adopt the consent agenda.
I apologize. Oh, man. Next up is a resolution for the consent agenda. I'll present that as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There are no items for special consideration, new and old business. Brian?
I have a couple real quick. I'm once again quite aggravated with Central Hudson, and I don't know if people have gotten what we've received with this nice red writing right here. Everybody, when the you-know-what hit the fan a while ago, and I called a Central Hudson special meeting, we had everybody here, and everyone's complaining, and they hung out here in the hallway, and they wrote down everyone's information, and then AJ had a special thing, and blah, 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 and I was here, of course, and I went to that one, and they were saying, I mean, we got a bill with thousands more added onto it, so it was rather shocking. A lot. Rather shocking. And so, I'm sorry, we just didn't write a little check and pay it all off. That's not in the budget. So we've communicated with them, and they said you can just keep paying it down on top of your regular bill, which we've done a substantial amount every month to get it down. And but they send this out. Your immediate action was required to avoid service termination. So my wife calls and goes, "What is this about?" "Yeah, you got to pay off that balance now." Like, no, that's not what you said. Okay, that's ridiculous. So, I'm going to make sure that they don't demand the remaining balance of the huge amount of increase, because we've been keeping up with what they originally instructed us to do. But I'm just wondering how many other people got this stupid thing from Central Hudson. And please email in, and let's see if we can get some action on this, because this is totally stupid. It's almost criminal. It's frightening. I mean, could we dip into certain funds and pay it all? Yeah, you don't want to, but how many people out there can't afford to do that? And it's just, I don't know what the hell this company is anymore. They used to be great, but ever since they were bought up by a Canadian company, they've just gone sideways on every bit of humility and understanding or sensitivity. I just don't understand them anymore. And speaking of stop signs, I had someone, and I don't think we own Baxter Town. Aren't these Baxter Town and Osborne Hill? Aren't they county? Are they county roads?
Baxter Town, Osborne Hill, yes.
Those
Where
are
Schoolhouse Road.
Because I've got somebody that called me and talked about the traffic congestion right at Baxter Town and Osborne, where people are coming out Baxter Town and trying to get on Osborne Hill Road. And at certain times, they just can't make the turns, because so much traffic coming in either direction, plus they're speeding. I had some idiot pass me, the double lane passed me on Osborne Hill. You're shaking your head. I've had it happen a couple of times. I had to block a guy one time because he was going to front end ram a school bus. He didn't see the school bus that I saw, and kids getting off, and this guy's coming at me at 80 miles an hour. So the question is can we make a request to have a study done for a three-way stop right there, potentially at Osborne and Baxtertown, to get that traffic to slow down, because they're going Mach 1 coming around by the church, getting down to 52, and I'm turning on my street on Florence Avenue, and people riding my butt, a quarter of an inch off of it, because how dare I go the speed limit? I would like for us to see what we can do with the county to take a look at that. You know, can we make a request to?
So make, forward that information to Carmine to go with his county connection? Does it be up to the county to put those signs up there?
And I'll be happy to introduce that at the Transportation Council.
When does that mean?
They usually meet in February, usually digitally, but I'll be happy to bring that up.
I appreciate it.
There was a traffic study done, because of the proposal for the corner of Jackson and Main, there was a traffic study that was done that was focused, unfortunately, only on that one corner.
Sure.
Residents had asked to expand that traffic study. We were given the consolidation of the traffic study would be reviewed. It was not expanded, which would include these areas that you are speaking of,
Yeah.
and that this gentleman back here had just talked about in front of St. Mary's,
Yeah.
because that is all affected, and it will be affected by that complex, which, by the way, there is a public hearing, excuse me, not a public hearing, but the planning board meeting in the village regarding that complex is on the agenda tomorrow night, so if anybody wants to go and sit in and see where they're at with that project. But
Right.
the traffic study, you know,
It's-
it would have been done, except that it was denied.
Well, the thing is, it's something we got to look at because it's already dangerous. Add more traffic, it's ridiculous. And I don't think they have a sign even in front of the school that's right there, the Catholic Church, and saying that that's a school that's behind there, you know.
Is that required for a private school?
Is what required for a
A
private
sign
school?
for a school, for a private school?
That it's a school zone, slow
School
down.
zone- No, it is not required.
It's not, okay. Must be the reason. But yeah, if we can look at that because it is out of control. You know, it's so wild. People are driving crazy and things are out of control and you get kind of sensitized to it until someone goes, hey, you know. And I've had so many instances along there where it's almost been very, very dangerous. So this is going to be a good thing, an extension of that study from 52 on up to where this is going to be a good thing. So I look forward to that. Thank you very much. Film permitting, we're going to work on and get that done. So that's all I got.
I just have one thing. I'm not much of an online shopper, and so as an incentive to sign up with a particular shopping retailer, which I will not name because I'm not here to advertise for them, they included as a gift with my first purchase a camera drone that you can operate from a cell phone. I've spoken with the highway superintendent who felt that might be useful for the highway department / buildings, grounds, parks department, that they could put it to use, getting visuals from the air on town park spaces, surveying damage that may have been caused to roadways, during storms, et cetera. I have no particular use or interest in this drone, but I would like to donate it to the highway department, and as such, I'd ask the town board to put a resolution on for February to accept a donation of this item and designate it to the highway department.
Sounds good to me.
If the board's willing to accept it.
Max has a drone. I've flown it. It's cool as heck. So I can see how that would be useful. You know?
Absolutely. And I'm sure that Carmine and his guys will have a very good plan for how to get the most out of it.
Sure.
And, it's free. It's free for me. Free
Why
for them.
not?
So send Mr. Gavin an email and have him do the resolution and put that on the agenda.
I'll do that.
So just a resolution only since we already discussed it. All right, our next town board meeting is February 7th. We're going to go into executive session. There'll be under a personnel matter. There'll be nothing voted on or discussed. Have a great evening, everyone. That's it.
Can we take a brief recess?
5 minutes.
Thank you.